play. I think Prairie's a little bit deceptive because we keep saying how big it is, but we have seen people with like Mongol outpost rushes with just Spearmen get in position at decent timing. So maybe you see that type of optimization. You know, he could just go for an incredibly crazy all-in where he pulls his villagers, he gets wheelbarrow as quickly as possible to get into the Barbican and waste no time, but we will waste no time anymore. We are finally ready. Quarterfinals day is upon us. Let's get in the first best of 5.
I'm incredibly excited for this matchup. One of my favorite matchups, the Chinese versus the French. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm a China main, and so that means that I love watching them, and we can see already the opening coming out for Magic. It looks like he's dropped a mill down to the south, and the Imperial Official is beginning to work its magic. For anybody who doesn't know, the Imperial Official buffs up the resources that are dropped off at that mill by 20%. So it means that when your village is dropping off 10 food, it's actually 12.
Yeah, it's kind of fitting that the guy with the name Magic is doing some magical fabrication to get more. And then, of course, on the other side, we have got LucifroN in the yellow as the French. And with the French, the openings are a little bit more standardized, right? It's almost just copy and paste. You want that optimal School of Cavalry timing. Yep. Usually looking at the mill, most players now agree wheelbarrow should complete upon tech up. And then from there, you get a little bit of flexibility. Do I go knights? Do I go archery range? However you want not.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that I would point out interestingly is that you mentioned, you know, it's just basically copy-paste with those build orders. It's very simple. You've got the fastest guy in the game playing the French, which requires, I reckon you could probably get away with about 6 actions per minute in the first minute of the game for the French. Just compare like, that to the Chinese, though. That's probably about 6,000, isn't it?
Just do like your mouse movements with one hand, open a RedBull cam with one hand, right? You've got enough time at the beginning.
You really do, and sometimes we do see players look to do that kind of thing in the early game. Marine Lord in particular was notorious for it, but we move forward now. One of the things to note about Prairie is there is a lot of food. There's plenty of berries out here, plenty of deer across this map, and plenty of sheep. So it's going to be, by the looks of it, a 2-scout opening here for Magic. So not something that we typically see out of China for your scout. It does take a little bit longer to build than it used to. So it used to take 20 seconds, now it's 25.
But this is a valuable map to do on. It's a lot bigger, there's a lot more sheep, and you have that Tang Dynasty with the additional vision. So you can spot sheeps much easier than LucifroN. Another cool thing about what Magic does here, if he gathers the majority of sheep, he can go for a cheap, heavy comp of horsemen, right? You've got limited wood, but enough to get you there. And the idea then is you counter a lot of what LucifroN wants to do. If you have enough horsemen, knights lose. If he goes archers, archers lose. So I'm starting to think that might be Magic's play, and that's the theory behind this Chinese build, is there's just so much sheep, and as we know, you want to be having sheep and berries en masse. This is not a civ that wants to go on deer or boar.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And obviously, one of the great things about collecting all those sheep as well is you can bring them back to your mill, which you're supervising. So there's less risk associated with that because you don't want to be moving out of your base, as you mentioned.
And that's the point, right? Because the difference between that when you go on deer is you're generating less tax because you're returning less frequently.
Correct. And it's further away as well, so the likelihood that you're actually going to even return it, but that is...
That's just one scout. What's the other one packing?
Yeah, he's packing quite a bit as well. It is looking good right now for Magic. This is exactly what he needs in this matchup. Keep in mind the French player is going to be putting the pedal to the metal in the early game. Expect to see knights in the base of the Chinese player early on, and the fact that he's got these sheep nice and safe next to the mill, he's not out on the deers, he's going to be loving it.
I love the spread of straggler trees around LucifroN if he was ever to get like denied as well. So he has pullback locations with loads of horsemen come in that he can still gather from. When we look on the other side, I think Magic, he has a similar amount. I love this addition. I think this was a really big issue. To me, whenever you had this kind of wood block on the main line, you tend to lose games because I think wood is the most valuable resource in the game.
Yeah, all right. Well, we see an interesting stat coming out right there. China versus French happened 5 times previously, and China won 4 out of 5 times. Well,
I'd love to know how often it was on Prairie, right? Because I think Prairie's a different beast. I still want to see what Magic has in mind. He clearly has a plan. And one nice thing, actually, I think, is the Imperial Academy placement is always optimal because your resources at the start seem to be really compacted together in most spawns.
Yeah, all right. Well, the age-ups now come through for LucifroN. Wheelbarrow in queue as well for him. We'll head on over and check on the base and see exactly what he's got going on. There is a knight in queue as well.
So interesting choice here by LucifroN. He opted to go for the faster School of Cavalry timing and then delayed the wheelbarrow. This is beneficial to get the first knight or 2 out. This was most commonly done in French mirror matchups because one knight can make a difference there. It's surprising to see him do it against the Chinese, but I think his logic is Chinese players play greed. They don't instantly drop a Rax.
Yeah, and interestingly, we also see him going for double broad axe. So looking to try and get out those upgrades early. Keep in mind the upgrades in the most recent patch have had their cost reduced, so it becomes more advantageous to get them earlier because, well, they're cheaper, and not only that, you're also playing the French. So you're paying next to nothing for those bad boys.
It's pretty nuts, right? Because they went from 250 resources to 150. I think they went down, was it 75 seconds to 45 as well?
It's very, very quick now.
It's phenomenal. And the interesting part is, like, civs like the French get less value now out of the discount compared to before, but it's still so impactful. And speaking of impact, instantly yoinks one of the villagers, able to shift away.
Yeah, it looked like Magic wasn't really paying attention there. We did see a point-blank charge coming through as well, so LucifroN utilizing that mechanic quite well. It's a bit difficult to pull it off, but if you can, it works out with an extra hit, or one less hit that you'll need to kill the villagers. But that Spearman just being very annoying. He's got to be careful not to overextend, though.
You need to be very careful here if you're Magic, because one premium trick you can do when there's only one spear versus a knight and a scout is you force the brace on the scout, and then the knight comes in afterwards, so you don't stun him, you don't root him. And if you remember, the way the bracing mechanic works is that initially both of them are stunned, and then the knight gets rooted afterwards.
Oh, another beautiful kill right there. LucifroN off to an early lead, definitely. Losing 2 villagers like that before 6 minutes into the game. You've achieved everything that you want to as the French at this stage. You've also forced spearmen from your enemy as well, so you're delaying that second town center, because every Chinese player wants to get that second town center up, and by being annoying like this, you're delaying it even further.
But it's like, where would you put that TC? Like, where's the high value? I feel like you have to come out to mid-map to really justify a lot of these TCs. The only other way I've seen them look kind of okay is when you go to the back corners because they're defendable. But even the one game I saw that happen, which was, I believe, sort of versus Magic, it ended up in a loss because you forfeit so much map.
Yeah, I think probably the best spot for him is going to be right next to the other town center. We see a lot of Chinese players going for that.
Yeah.
Try and keep them nice close together because they are so important. Keep in mind, it's not just one town center, it's 1.5 town centers for each one. And now we see town centers on the other side of the map potentially coming down. LucifroN with a lot of villagers heading over to Stone here.
Magic got the read perfectly, instantly sees the mining camp going up, also spots out the archers coming in, but unfortunately he did lose a scout. The good news, at least, he did open with a secondary scout, so he'll still have vision out on the map.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it could be something, I guess, obviously he doesn't want to lose that scout, but now he's kind of telegraphed, hey, LucifroN, I know what you're up to. You're not hiding any secrets from me. All right, well, plenty of sheep. Look at the sheep underneath that mill as well. So many damn sheep. 21 still to go. He's got carcasses under there as well.
What I love is he didn't club them all. I've lost count of the amount of times I've watched a player club all the sheep.
Yep.
And, like, you know, you wouldn't expect an outpost rush, but that type of thing happens.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, great. Now I have not only not got berries, I haven't got sheep.
Yeah, that is China's worst mistake, and I'll admit it happens to me as well. Yeah, 10 sheep all underneath your mill, and there's an outpost. There's nothing you can do about it.
Because it's optimal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But optimization, you know, in a game that's about reactions, you know, trying to go for the perfect game doesn't work. You know, the classic saying is a good plan often doesn't survive first contact.
I've not heard that before. But I guess there'll be plenty more times for more plans. At the moment, Magic's done a pretty decent job of repelling this attack. Keep in mind that French do make their villages faster. But once Magic hits the Song Dynasty, then he's going to start taking the lead when it comes to the villager count. So LucifroN is continuing to pull ahead on that villager count. He's up by about 3 at the moment. But the defense has been pretty solid from Magic, with the exception of that early lapse in attention.
And the fact that Magic has his wheelbarrow already means that it's much harder for these knights to get in and pinch.
Yeah.
Another thing to notice about his base is where this village was placed. It wasn't because, oh, I've got people here and I don't want to idle them. This is a garrison point. This is the beautiful thing about the Chinese that makes them so hard to dive. It's not just the hand cannon slits. It's the fact they've got all these safe havens for their vulnerable villages.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We do see the Barbican now coming up a little bit late on this Barbican. We do typically see players look to go for the Song Dynasty a bit earlier than the 8-minute mark, but
oh, that's beautiful.
It's better late than never. Yeah, this is a great spot, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's so far out to the side. Like, he's pulled it further away from where he knows Magic's likely to look. So in LucifroN's mind, he could either went to the northern corner or the western corner. The difference is the northern corner doesn't have any bore, and he wants that gathering rate. And the cool thing is Magic so far has started building mass spearmen. It's less likely that he goes on the wide flanks.
All right, well, it looks like we've got the transition now coming in for Magic as the Song Dynasty begins. So does Magic starting to take down some stone, so he's going to be looking for that town center. And LucifroN, got to be careful right here.
He's not paying attention.
This is not good right here. You need as much tempo as you can against the Chinese, and it's so important you don't lose those knights. And look at this, he's lost 2 already. Third one might go down here as well.
That was brilliant by Magic. He split up 2 different groups of spears. He caught LucifroN trying to dive in, and then he baited the attention there. LucifroN had the micro to get the knights out efficiently, and he wasn't paying attention to the second attempt, right? So just great read by Magic, and then off the back of that, look at what he's doing here. We don't see it often this way, but I talked a little bit with Magic and a few other players. One of the big issues is the way you wall on this map. You want to take everything at once, but using these small wood lines as a kind of a scaffolding
Yep.
is incredibly efficient.
All right, well, the walls are coming up. It's great to see. And, you know, as we mentioned earlier, it can be so difficult going up against the French because they're hitting you with these knights. They're a lot less forgiving than horsemen. If a horseman gets into your wood line, then it's going to take, I think it works out to be about 6 hits before you actually start taking losses.
Yeah.
Whereas a knight, it's just 2. So nice little adaptation there from Magic to be going for these walls.
It would be 2 if he gets the melee tech upgrade. LucifroN hasn't got it yet, so he's not going to smash a villager in 2 hits. He needs that 3rd. So I'd love to see him go back for the blacksmiths now. He's already prepping the chivalry, though. I think he's aware that getting these villagers is a little bit more difficult. He's probably going to have to clash with the horsemen first.
All right, well, spearman numbers are starting to rise. He's actually stopped production for the moment. Expect that second town center to come down shortly. The question's going to be, where does it go down for Magic from here? He could just look to be putting it on that main town center. He's got plenty of resources, but we don't really see... Yeah, we don't see any villagers moving out just yet. So it is just going to be next to the starting town center.
Makes sense. He wants on the southern side because he hasn't protected that with his walls.
Yeah.
And also, if you just look south of here, he's got double berry patch in this area. So it's a nice area to play around. Whenever you've got a TC, if you can look for an optimal spot where there's a resource branch out, it's better. And just naturally, the only thing you get by going north is gold and stone.
All right, well, have a look at LucifroN in the queue right now. He's got horticulture. This is a completely different LucifroN that we're seeing. I remember watching games with LucifroN that went for 30 minutes, no wheelbarrow, no horticulture, no upgrades at all when it comes to economy. And yet here, before 12 minutes, we're getting all 4.
And that's where it's something to do with the meta switching, right? They nerfed these, buffed rather the cost of these. It went from 250 to 150 each. It's just so much more beneficial. I was kind of surprised. Did he do survival techniques already? Because I feel like survival techniques usually takes prior when you're harvesting on board like he is. I
would suspect he has. I don't know. I don't think we're actually going to be able to...
check a mill.
No, wait, I don't think we'll be able to... Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So, yeah, that makes sense. So, survival techniques first. I believe it's still cheaper, even after the buffs to the other eco anyway.
All right, well, Villager's got to be careful. They're on the wrong side of this wall right now. He might be able to get a quick wall off here, but it's going to be so... Oh, yeah, rest in peace, little guys. But keep in mind, Magic is on a higher amount of effective town centers right now. He's producing villagers out the wazoo. That second town center is the equivalent of 1.5 TC. So he's really on 3 town centers compared to LucifroN, who's on about 2.2 town centers.
Yeah, and now, so far, Magic's been negotiating to get more walls up. It gets more difficult with this. The archers have arrived in mass. These spearmen are heavily relegated this phase. Magic's going to have to give ground.
Yeah, and there's definitely not enough horsemen here at this point. The knights are going to be able to run effective screens, and when you consider that the horsemen have got a really good bonus against those archers, they want to be attacking them, and once you've got the knights in front screening for them, it's not always going to be successful.
Once you get to about 10 to 12 horsemen, I think you can take this fight, even if LucifroN keeps producing archers at his current rate. The difference is that once you get to that count, you don't insta-die with half them on the way there, and you're able to get behind them to body block a retreat.
But we did just get a glimpse inside LucifroN's base. Double barracks coming down, so he's going to be adding in spearmen, and this is where it starts to get hard for China, falling back towards that town center. Another spearman going to be going down. Town center firing off towards those archers, looking to try and take them out, but they're jostling for position, and it seems like until a battering ram or 2 comes in, there's really not going to be much aggression that can be guaranteed success here.
Yeah, I always feel like I have an indecision in life, but these knights kind of outdo me. Charge! No, don't charge. Charge! Don't. But the whole idea is Magic has to keep turning around the spears, and it baits them in range of the archers. It's just great micro out of LucifroN.
Yeah, honestly, if I'm Magic in this position, what I'd love to see is just a really wide flank from him. Come out over towards this stone mine and see if you can kind of bait your enemy in towards those town centers and then look to get in from behind. But with the spearmen coming in, this is where it's going to get really difficult for Magic because he hasn't scouted the barracks, and siege engineering is also coming in, which means the issue is going to be forced here. He's going to have to commit or he will lose a town center.
And the tough part right now is like Lucy, why he doesn't go around to the right side is he doesn't want to peel attention there, but then have a few stragglers go left. Because if Magic sends just a few scouts or horsemen out, he might see this TC, he might just rush to torture. It's very difficult for LucifroN to insta-dive a Chinese base at this point, but give it another 5 minutes, he's going to be so deep in, he might as well be the Chinese.
All right, well, he's looking for villagers at the moment. Magic is. The villager count is now even, despite him losing 3 villagers earlier this game. Keep in mind that army down towards the south side is still building up. We'll be back with it shortly, but for the moment, we'll watch and wait on these horsemen.
This isn't a good feeling, Drongo, like the army value difference. This is why you need to strike like this. Magic, great maneuvering, gets around the backside, and the timing couldn't be better. LucifroN, he just prepped the rams, but he's not in yet, and this wall will delay his assault.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see this defense for Magic. It's going to be so difficult for him. Whether he starts thinking about additional outposts here to help out, the town center is going to be focusing down units. So it's going to mean the melee units for Magic are going to be able to kind of be nested in underneath. but by the same token, LucifroN is going to make sure that he keeps his units close by so that these Rams don't die.
Yeah, and he even idled the wood line a little bit back in LucifroN's base. Magic should bring the Horsemen back for a backstab. And remember we talked about you need extra troops to go past the front line? Now it's not the case. You're wrapping around from the backside.
Yeah, well, the focus now becomes on that additional town center. Horseman moving in on the south side. Spearman coming up the rear as well. And it looks like he's just going to be committing at this point. And a beautiful block. Oh, my lord, it's absolutely perfect. You ain't getting through that gap, my friend. And the Horseman surround is looking very solid. Spearman numbers are looking good as well. But keep in mind, there's plenty of Spearmen here for LucifroN as well.
The TC's going to be gone, but the army's going to be gone alongside it. The French army, that is. Great pinch coming out from Magic. He goes full Gandalf and says, you shall not pass. Knights just about get out. But the archers are in shambles. They get wiped out. Rams will be cleaned up. Yes, Magic does lose the TC, but he still has the eco lead and can easily go into another one.
This is exactly what you want as China. The biggest thing that Chinese players die to are these 15-minute timing pushes. It came, it went. Unfortunately, it did not conquer. So beautiful defense there from Magic. He lost the TC, but in reality, at this point, when you're at 72 villages, adding in that second TC, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, you can easily pivot over. You can see he's already got 9 people working on stone, so we'll probably see that coming in after he gets his tech up, because the punishment isn't going to end there. Magic, although he's not able to get the Knights, he gets the tech up. Astronomical clock tower about to complete in the blink of the eyes, because that's how quick the Chinese are.
I wasn't even paying attention. You said astronomical clock tower. He was already aged up. That's incredible how quick that is. So now he's going to push it now, but I can't help but feel like this might be a bit of an overextension. He needs to come back, look for those veterancy upgrades, look for that Nesta B. We now see it in Q. The Nesta B is about to be on the field.
Yeah, it's that classic, get the hell away from my base. I'm doing something I don't want you to interrupt. So it kind of looks throwy, but the whole idea is you need that space. Otherwise, the Knights come in, maybe they catch you building it up. Even the Chinese build speed, these Knights kill you so fast that you might be blocked out of your own tech up.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, he's got enough resources now for that second town center. Expect him to add it in shortly.
The Nesta Bees, this is going to change everything. Like LucifroN, in these choke points, he can't get on top of them easily.
He's got to be so careful, though. The Nesta Beast is about to pop out, and there's no units there. The Knights could look to strike, but fortunately, they do make it away. Now, what kind of reaction do we see here from LucifroN? Does he look to just continue playing it out in the second age? Does he think about going castle himself?
I feel like you have to kind of reach up at this stage. He's either going to say, this is an all-in in the next 3 minutes, or I'm going to go for a tech up. Considering he's switching over to farms as well, this would cripple his all-in timing. I'd love to see him just try to play in a castle. It doesn't feel great. When you're when you play French, you always want to be feudal, right? But that time has passed. You have to adjust to the state of the game now.
Watch out, watch out, watch out. That Nesta B's getting some pretty decent shots off there. And keep in mind, there's no healers back at home for these units. Sure, the Knights can heal up, but unfortunately, they won't hit.
He's coming around the backside here with the Knights. I don't know if this has been scouted out yet. Yeah, he's quickly there.
He's got to be so careful. He could quick wall him in if he's not paying attention.
Damn, he loses 2 Knights straight away.
Yeah, this is really, really harsh.
He needs to show some respect here. Like, these aren't even veteran spearmen yet.
Yeah. We do see a bit of market trading there, so he might be thinking about it, but no, he's going to be adding in a couple of lances himself.
Oh, Magic.
He's looking for it, isn't he?
I think he got a glimpse of the farms already, so he knows. And if he comes around the right side, there it is. He finds the berry workers. Great reaction coming out from LucifroN. Gets out before it becomes a problem.
Yeah, fortunately, they're only horsemen. So worst case scenario, they just cause a little bit of idle time. But look at that. Also just missing the villagers by the blink of an eye. Jeez, that was so damn close. But now, once again, coming in, he's looking for more. And this is so smart by him to be doing this because he's drawing the attention back over to LucifroN. But the age up now coming through as well. It's going to be the Royal Institute. Definitely the right choice here with an economy this big.
Yeah, and the location's a little bit dangerous on the front side, but it works out because Magic actually wrapped around the back. I think he was looking for exactly that, delay the tech up, isn't able to find it because of the unorthodox placement by LucifroN in a more aggressive position. Now back in the base, Flash trying to come in with these Nesta Bees. These Nesta Bees should be the priority. Archer Mass is in trouble. Spears will try to hold the front line. It's still no tech up though. Look, Magic, he hasn't got veteran Spears.
Yeah, a little bit of a mistake from him here, but the Nesta Bees still yet to fire off. There we go, gets another nice shot. Splits also coming out. The Royal Knights looking fierce in this position. If that veteran Spearman was in, this might be a different story, but at the moment, he's losing significant amounts of unit. The Nesta Bees managing to hold on for dear life out here. A number of Palace Guards making their way out onto the field, but the Knight numbers are what's scary right now, KP.
It's the Palace Guard. The Palace Guard was deceiving there. They were tanking for all the damage. They don't die quick enough, but they don't do enough damage to the Knights either. Magic, with this whoopsie-daisy moment, may have actually lost a bit of momentum here. He's not going to lose the game off the back of it, but it gives LucifroN the breathing room to now recover, catch up in the Castle Age, and step back from the fight with a decent amount of Knights, and now the ability to juice them up further.
Yeah, it's definitely definitely not over. Keep in mind that LucifroN did a lot of damage with that first push. He took out the town center, delayed the Chinese, probably cost him close to about 10 to 12 villages just in that town center being down. Can we double check and see, has Magic dropped in his own second town center again? It looks like he has, yeah. So we do see the second TC has come in. A nice little raid as well back on that other side. But once again, Horsemen, they're not too scary here, are they?
No, they're just idlers. That's the whole idea. You're kind of doing what knights do, right? Like we talk about how knights kill villages all the time, but their real goal is to idle villages.
All right. Well, I suspect from here the composition that we're going to be seeing it's Spearmen, Palace Guards, and Nest of Bees. It's important to note that there are now Lancers out on the field as well for Magic, so he's looking to involve some cavalry in his composition here continually.
Yeah, I'd love to just see Magic now take a few villages, considering he's at about 100, and go to the north side and wall across between these tree lines like he done in the south. If you look north of his base, you can see you've got wide wood lines, 2 of them in fact. So it's kind of like this dotted approach. It'd be very efficient, and it would then funnel LucifroN into a choke point, which he doesn't want to do because he's still relying on knights.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, well, we've got farms now coming in as well. Look at this beautiful transition from Magic. Stone at the front, still yet to be really taken advantage of. So no sign of a keep coming in just yet. But I will warn all of our Chinese fans out there that there is still a window for a French victory here with that damage that was done. So I'd be very hesitant in the next 5 to 7 minutes of going to the Imperial Age for Magic, because if he does that, that's exactly when LucifroN's going to push. And keep in mind, he's got the Royal Institute here, which means he's going to have access to things like the unique technologies of the French Royal Bloodlines.
Canted saddles.
Big upgrades that are really going to change the way that this game fights out. But we don't see them in queue just yet.
No, the biggest one's going to be Crossbow Stirrups, because he's switching into Arbitraire. This is a great read by LucifroN. We talked about the limitation of this map. Not much wood. Usually the typical comps for Chinese is a lot of wood. We talked about it for their farms, but they usually go Spearmen, they go Nest of Bees, they want to go Horsemen. Instead, he's having to go into Lancers and Palace Guard because there's plenty of food and gold, and that means the Arbitraire that cost food and gold are the perfect counter to this comp.
Yeah, it's really smart. It's interesting how that dynamic changes on this map where gold is so common. You know, maybe the Ottomans become a strong civ here because of the Janissary. It's so gold heavy. But we'll have to wait and see how that one plays out as the tournament continues on. But beautiful raid back here once again. Still Royal Bloodlines, not yet in queue. And he's just shift-clicked onto a couple villages here. Able to try and take them out. But still, not a whole lot of villages have gone down. He's only taken 8 this game.
And it's against the Chinese. Like, these raids just don't do anything anymore. This is one of the issues. Like, French are all about raiding. LucifroN, we talked about this at the start of the series. He's also all about raiding. Chinese is maybe one of those kind of weak points for him, because if you can't shut them down very quickly, they reach a point where they shrug at all this chip damage you're doing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think, especially with that wall on the south side, it makes it a lot more difficult for the units to continue being fluid around there. But now we see that wall on the north side of the Chinese base. This is where it starts to get hard for LucifroN, because the narrative is now controlled by Magic.
Yeah, and if Magic wanted, he could even drop a second keep near the fat stone outcropping. So this funnel point, a wide funnel point, is covered on both sides by the keeps.
All right, well, LucifroN's window is slowly closing, but fortunately we do see Royal Bloodlines coming in. He's also creating knights, but he's got 7 crossbows in queue. You mentioned this before, that or rather, Arbitraire, he's got quite a bit of them coming out, and crossbow stirrups here could be quite big. But the win condition, you've got to remember, when it comes to this win condition for the French, it's always just about having more knights than what the Chinese player can deal with. Because once you've got those knights in the enemy base and there's no units there to kill them, they're looking for villages, they're camping on top of production, and the game is called.
And I love this pivot now by Magic. He's now going into crossbows. Usually this is a kind of game-losing situation against Arbitraire because they have the Pavises. You can't use the Pavises, though. It's the Nest of Bees. If you just sit on the spot, you're going to get wiped out.
Yeah, that's a smart move, actually. And yeah, an interesting dynamic here. But the forces are starting to look good for LucifroN. Keep in mind, Magic has dropped down a keep. It's going to be very difficult for LucifroN to push this angle. And now spotting that keep, he's going to immediately fall back. I take it back. Hold on a minute. He's a brave man, isn't he?
He's going his way in. He's probing to see what the numbers are. He wants to say, okay, Magic, I've shown you my hand. Now show me yours. And if he knew fully what's happening here, he has double the military pop cap with premium units. He'd look to go in. Now he's going to wrap around because that second keep never came down. Instead, Magic is going for a dynasty up here, moving into the Yuan, but the Imperial Palace is going to set him back in production. It might even get scouted by Lucy.
Yeah, this is an interesting position as well, because ideally, you'd just love to see more units. This is the main time where you're going to be dying as Chinese.
He doesn't see it yet. If he sees it, he goes in because he's like, okay, you just invested 1,800 resources into not fighting me.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Now, one thing to note, I still don't think we've got Spearman, or veteran Spearman has come through just yet.
No. Well, no, Magic has got it. But
oh, no, we do,
yeah.
Yeah,
He hasn't got many, he moved away. Nesta B's flurry comes out, though. Knights, they want to wrap around the backside. If the NOBs do not get shut down, LucifroN is going to get wiped out of this fight.
Yeah, but there's so many Bs. Look at these guys, and now we see the Imperial Palace coming through. Big movement speed buff to all the units, and look at the Bs just dominating those. Arbalatria on the top side, still pushing forward with the Knights, though. He's looking solid. That Royal Bloodline's really doing well, but it looks like it's going to be a Chinese hold.
Yeah, he has to run away, and he loses more Knights on the exit. This is the crippling detail. In for a penny, in for a pound. If you ever turn and burn against Nesta Bs, you feel their sting.
You really do, and now the numbers continue increasing up to 4 Nesta Bs, and look at the stables coming down. Fire Lancers.
Wave those flames high. A torch is being bared. I felt like day one, someone was there in their world for Magic cheering with their torch waving left to right. Now we're going to see it in actual game here. Nesta B's even getting a second strike off. LucifroN is losing practically the whole backbone of his army here.
That is so painful to be losing that as well, because those units just never should have been there. He should have just been back to base.
Yep.
And just loses them so easily. But a little bit of a raid up towards the north. If Lucy wants to get back into this game, that's how he's going to do it. But it's such a tough spot for him.
I think he saw stables, but I still don't... Like, did he see the Imperial Palace? Did he catch it on the side?
I'm sure he has, and
Yeah.
I'm sure he knows that it's a potential...
On the keep gets denied. He blocks him off. Magic is gaining momentum here. With the Nesta Bs here as well, it's difficult for LucifroN to just dive in because he just created a choke point between this tree line and his own keep.
Yeah. Well, still havoc being caused out here over on the east side. Yeah, there's 2 of them out here. Villagers have been falling. We've seen 19 villager kills so far for LucifroN, so not bad.
And remember, this is Chinese now, not on Song Dynasty. So if you do enough damage, he's going to feel the sting.
Very good point. So the Song Dynasty as well gives you that extra speed for the villagers. But nice little find right here. Getting onto the Nesta Beast, they do survive with just a slither of health. One of them does go down, but it does expose the Springalds as well. So he knows what he can be going for here. And we can see right now, Keep looks like it's going to get up here, KP. Yeah, Magic was trying to intercept. That was a great read by him, a great reaction by LucifroN. Now Springal's in the field. There needs to be a pivot here coming out of Magic. He can either go into his own anti-siege. You know what's better than anti-siege? Burn it all, baby. Fire Lancers are starting to come out. There they are, yeah. He's got 11 now out on the field. He's got another 4 in queue, so watch out. This guy means business when it comes to burning things down. Spots out this little raid on the south side as well. Looks like it might get cleaned up. He's trying to just back out. He says, I'm sorry, it was just a prank, bro, but unfortunately he gets trapped. Speaking of bro, well, let's not go there, but Spearman looking solid at the moment. Trebuchet makes its way out onto the field as well, KP. So we now enter that stage of the game where we've got plenty of siege out here. But there's a big problem coming, is if LucifroN doesn't see the Fire Lancers being pumped, and they master 30-40, on such a big map, Magic's just going to run down straight down the center to your base, burn your landmarks, and you're out. And I think he's trying to hide it. Unfortunately for him, the Keep and the Trebuchet now see all of this, but he keeps peeling the Fire Lancers away. He's trying to play wide, and maybe first of all, he can even start by taking out this eco expansion LucifroN has unguarded on the left side. Well, speaking of taking things out, it looks like this Keep going to have to get cancelled at the moment. Magic, unfortunately, heading back to the pavilion with those villagers. But there are plenty of units out here looking to support them. On the other side. Yeah, it's getting a little bit trapped down here, but... Yeah, but there's also Lucy's villagers out here, right? So these ones are actually getting back to safety. These ones, not so much. Well, it looks like Nesta Bs do actually go down. He gets a great little flank here onto them. So the numbers for Nesta Bs only down to 1 left at the moment. But where is Magic? Like, what happened to the Fire Lancers? We were close to 20, and now we're down to 5. Yeah, just evaporated in the blink of an eye. He's got plenty more in queue, though, but he is indeed throwing them away at the moment. Sacred Victory continues to approach. How viable do you think it is, or what do you reckon the chances of an actual Sacred Victory happening are here? I think it's very difficult unless you get Stonewalls on the north side to maintain that, especially with Fire Lancers in the field. I think LucifroN just wants to force Magic to come out before he has that critical mass of troops, and I don't think he's ever getting there right now. That the Fire Lancer plan has fallen apart. One of the big issues with this is how expensive it is compared to the old build where you were able to discount them in Imperial. You no longer have that option. Yeah, well, Nesta B's getting a pretty decent shot off there, and now the Fire Lancers hitting the back line, looking pretty decent on that one. Also going to be making their way up towards the Springalds, and that's going to clean open the open the position here for the Nest of Bees to make their way through.
Great body block there by Lucy. He pushed all his crossbows to get against the tree to keep one Springald alive. It means the Nest of Bees can't come anywhere near the fight.
Yeah, that was really good. And we see another Springald now making his way out. And LucifroN looking pretty solid in this push. At the moment, the population between these guys is neck and neck. But LucifroN definitely looking like he might have a bit of an advantage here. Keep in mind, there's a lot of villagers on Magic side. He's only got 29 military pop at the moment.
And keep in mind, he's got 15 Royal Knights that have been juiced up with the Royal Bloodlines, with everything that they could ever hope for. Also, we're getting to this point. We're getting the Gambesons. We're getting more upgrades for the Arbaletier, so they'll be able to juke it out for longer in these fights. But we'll need to be careful of this. Fire Lancers keep coming out these stables, so every time LucifroN dives in, he's exposing his backside.
Yeah, and once again, it gets cleaned up. Unfortunately for him, going to be losing both of those Springalds, and they try and hit the Nest of Bees. He gets one shot off, but now the Nest of Bees begins to rain down its terror. And another beautiful hold here by our Chinese player. Magic looking very strong.
One issue for Magic long term is he could potentially run out of resources if he doesn't gain more ground. That's why you're seeing him sneak onto the south side of the map, because so far Lucy's had 50% available to him. He can go as wide as he wants because he's right now the aggressor.
Yeah, and he just continues pushing at this point. I reckon if he moved down to the south, it could start to look really poor for Magic, but he's holding on a pretty decent spot here. Is there a window to go Imperial, do you think, or are these guys just spamming out units non-stop just to stay alive?
I think you're hard stuck doing this for a long time before you even think about Imperial. They both have to back off, and I don't see that happening. For LucifroN, he now wants to try and dictate the pace because you mentioned that Sacred Site. Now in conjunction with the fact he's got so much map access, he feels very comfortable for the next 10 minutes. Magic, on the other hand, desperately needs to break out because he won't be able to stay like this long term.
The Imperial Official is on the Sacred Site, but it wasn't reducing. Imperial Official, there you go. The Imperial Official is not real, I guess. He doesn't have a soul? What does that mean?
I mean, you know, taxmen don't have souls, right?
I guess that's probably it, right?
It's weird as well because if anything, like churches make loads off tax, right? Like they don't have to pay tax at all.
Yeah, really good point. All right, well now a little bit of a push coming through. Plenty of spearmen out here as well. Could be able to push back those knights and not a lot of Arbaletier. All of a sudden, Magic starting to look good. He's maxed out at 200 population. LucifroN, on the other hand, down to 160. So that Chinese economy in the late game really starting to come through. Trebuchet continue to firing off and the keep does go down. It's starting to look really good for Magic here, but the Sacred Victory does continue approaching.
Oh, his Fire Lancers are running around the Arbaletier, not attacking half the time here, so he didn't get as good an exchange as maybe he's hoping for. It looks like, if anything, Magic's trying to optimize for cycle charges with the Fire Lancers, because when they do that initial hit, it's a spread damage.
Yeah, all right. Well, Fire Lancers continue coming through. And keep in mind, these guys, a lot of people think of Fire Lancers as kind of pseudo-horsemen, and that's true to an extent, but they don't get a ranged attack, or they don't get ranged damage. So extra damage against ranged units. It's just a flat amount of damage that they get. They get extra against Siege, but unfortunately, Arbaletier aren't Siege.
And there's barely any Siege left. Lucy's only bringing out Trebuchets, and that's it right now. So it almost feels like going more and more Fire Lance like this is starting to bait you, especially when you consider a clutch play by Lucy was his choice to go into the Gambesons, because now you don't have a chance at all of taking out these mass Arbaletier formations with Fire Lancers.
Well, the Sacred Site was neutralized in the center of the map. We can see that that one did go down. It looks like a villager also going to be losing his life. Poor guy. It happens to the best of us, doesn't it? But
it's just peasants.
It's just peasants. Yeah.
Filthy serfs.
Hey, we're the ones wearing peasant uniforms, so you got to watch out there, my friend.
I'm keeping an eye out for any keeps that are aiming at me. I think we're safe there for now.
All right. Well, the push is still coming through, and Magic looking in a really good spot here. He's pretty close to maxed out, which means that he's going to start thinking about an Imperial Age soon. And once he's up in the Imperial Age, he's going to be looking for those elite upgrades, and that's when push really starts to come to shove for China.
Yeah, and the cool thing is if he gets there, then these Fire Lancers come back in because they've become a tankier unit with the Spirit Way. You'll be able to heal as well as get additional attack speed, and they become somewhat competitive. But for now, it's just all about the crossbows. I love this switch up by Magic. He saw there's just not enough Arbaletier, and there's always this hesitation to bunch for LucifroN, because if one Nest of Bees comes out of nowhere, Arbaletier go bye-bye.
Yeah. Well, the units continue making their way onto the field, and at the same time, those resources start getting banked up. We'll take a look at Magic's income at the moment, but I suspect it's probably sitting at about 3K. Yeah, 2.7K food a minute. Plenty, but by the same token, LucifroN also on 2.6K. So both of these guys pretty neck and neck when it comes to resources.
Yeah, the long-term thing that can matter is wood. It's why you want to try budget your requirement to go into wood-based units. But they can even sting you in a different way. Between building farms and building more military production buildings, as well as the trebuchets, you could find yourself burning the last of your forests very quickly here.
Yeah, the grind just continues here. It's just been non-stop this game. I think probably for the last 10 minutes or so, we've seen them just fighting within this rough screen here. But the night numbers all of a sudden looking good. College of Artillery going down for LucifroN. Now, he's sitting at 172 pop, so he's not maxed out. So it kind of leaves a bit of a window here for Magic to just push with 200 pop while those resources are being spent elsewhere.
It's why he's repairing the keep. If this keep goes down before the tech up, there's going to be a flood out from Magic. So the key detail for LucifroN to hold on here, the castle has to stand. It's a distraction to cover the weakness of your tech up.
Yeah, really good pick up there. Well, looks like Royal Knight's going to be trying to draw attention in other places as well. Another great way for him to prolong the game and get a bit of an advantage for an Imperial Age. But over on the other side, Magic, he's spent a lot of his resources now. And there's no Imperial in queue at all. So this is just, he's just spending his resources on units at this point.
He's also spotting out the proxy base. LucifroN set up on the flank with a keep and then the military production as well. It just seems like Magic is trying to secure areas with these keep drops and might even actually drop one location to block out some food sources. But his own food sources are in peril right now. These knights weren't instantly answered. Magic just can't match the pace with the crossbows and spears chasing.
Well, the age ups now come through for LucifroN and we see some upgrades clicked immediately. Tithe Barns going to be clicked up.
He just cancelled. Like, Magic just cancelled all his production to get the resources. He traded for the remaining as well. He's following suit instantly into the Spirit Way.
Yeah, very smart for him to do that. At the same time, we also see veteran horsemen coming through for LucifroN. So not moving into elite knights, which are probably a bit more expensive, and going for the horsemen, which is kind of strange to think on this map. So maybe a little bit of bias right there, just to the normal kind of maps.
It's the composition that Magic's running. It's mass crossbowmen right now, so you just want mass horsemen, and then you force him to go away from that, and then you can come back in with knights if you choose. Right. Also, they've got royal bloodlines, right? So they're incredibly tanky horsemen.
Yeah, they're already very good, but we do now see more keeps being dropped down, and these villagers are pretty far away from home right now, KP. I'm not sure exactly what his plan is, but it looks like to disrupt the economy of LucifroN. So probably a keep drop going to be happening behind enemy lines.
He's definitely got the stone for it. Almost enough for 2 keeps, actually, at that rate. I like this idea, though. It's one of the big advantages of the Chinese, especially if your opponent's not watching. Best player we've seen do this at the tournament and in the Road to Wololo was the Muslim. He loves his keep drops to the Chinese. Blocks out so much of the map very quickly at the beginning of Castle, but we're far past that. We're deep into Imperial now. Yeah,
this is it. So both players now reaching the Imperial Age. Yet to see any elite upgrades coming out from Magic, but we do see triple elite upgrades coming through for LucifroN. Elite Spearmen, elite Arbilatria and elite horsemen all coming through. He's also picking up cross-precision breeding, I think it is. Or I'm not 100% sure, but I can tell you it is the final technology. There you go. Precision crossbreeding.
How do you crossbreed with a scythe? I feel like...
With precision.
I hope so, because you might kill it when you're trying to breed it.
There's a lot of precision involved, I assure you. But now those horsemen looking to try and get behind enemy lines. We also see incendiary arrows coming through now for LucifroN. Over on the other side, Magic going to be going into his tier 3 economic techs as well. So both of these players observing a pretty good upgrade routine here. You know, we often see players hit Imperial Age and just not even bother getting upgrades. And it seems like, well, what's the point if you're not going to do it? But an interesting upgrade for Magic right now, Pyrotechnics, which is going to increase the range of your hand cannons.
Yep, I love this as well. Going to hand cannoneers, even against Arbilatria, they perform very well. It's kind of a bait that these Pavisas help you because the raw damage is so high. You're mitigating very small quantities of damage. And I know Magic is a big believer that the way to go in the late game, hand cannoneers, spears, maybe some horsemen, supporting artillery, that's the best comp you can get.
All right, well, the Culverin is out for LucifroN. Keep in mind, it's not available to the French unless they go for the Royal, the College of Artillery, but it is a very strong unit, and you can see at the same time Magic is moving back. His own siege is going to be so careful. That Culverin just looming and looking for anything it can try and get its hands on.
Yeah, and you can see the value of still pushing Fire Lancers there, just giving that buff over to everyone nearby. That's where their hand cannoneer is going to last a lot longer because they're just not easily accessible and they're a lot more lethal to whoever's assaulting them.
All right, well, the horsemen continue pushing up and we do finally see the hand cannoneers coming out onto the field. Now, keep in mind, he also went for the Spirit Way, so do expect to start seeing some Shukunu beginning to make their way onto the field. With the Spirit Way, the way it was changed, those things are going to be really strong, and we can see the Fire Lancers looking to represent that change as well. In the front line, plenty of damage coming out there, and the healing, the extra attack speed, it's very, very strong.
And this is what I was talking about. They last a little bit longer. They're healing the spearmen around them. They're helping everyone out. The whole idea is you're just creating a front line that doesn't die as fast, and you won't really ever buff your back line of hand cannoneers, but it doesn't matter. They're a high damage unit. You just need something front side that doesn't die quickly.
Yeah, so I think adding in the Shukunuhi is going to be really, really pivotal. Even if you just delete them, it is quite common to see people just delete them because of that buff, the buff that it can give you.
I think I like the Fire Lancers more just because you can get them in position quicker, right?
Yeah.
So wherever they're needed, they can intercept, whereas Shukunu is the pseudo front line are very static.
Yeah, all right. Well, beautiful little positioning here, but the Culverin still does stand at the moment. And once again, those Fire Lancers hitting the back line, taking out the Springald, but that Culverin just still standing strong right now. A real bastion here for LucifroN.
He's forfeiting ground, though. You can see LucifroN starting to bulk against this. He's bowing down to the superiority of the ranged copper magic, and the Culverin might even go down with it. More Fire Lancers coming in. Mangonel also almost getting sniped. Great body blocks by LucifroN to keep that Mangonel alive and be able to turn and burn onto the back line. Magic with the quick reactions.
Yeah, that was very, very fortunate, but the Mangonel unpacking once again. It's looking to try and get its rocks off. Let's see if he's going to find success. A little bit of a split, but they all grouped up once again.
You got it.
Oh, it's a big hit as well. See, this is why you need those Shukunu on the backside, because when they die, then they start healing everybody up. It's that extra passive healing.
Yeah, but for him, he's just relying on micro, and he's relying on the Fire Lancers. If he doesn't just keep producing Fire Lancers instead, he never gets rid of the siege. So his logic here is attack is the best form of defense.
Yeah, very smart moves. More Fire Lancers just keep coming in, and I feel like the tempo is now starting to move in favor of Magic. The population difference is starting to really show. 30 population difference, and another keep going to be coming down on the front line.
Oh, hey, honey.
Good luck getting through that one. Look how many villagers you brought to that party. That's 42 villagers. I feel like it's probably enough.
Are you building a building or a place of worship right now? He almost surrounds the entire thing at this stage. No way you can stop that from going up.
Yeah, there's not a chance in hell that is happening. But that keep is in a really good position here as well. It's going to force the next line, force the fight over towards that west side a little bit more, and it gets him closer to the LucifroN base.
And the idea is that it can pull attention full north side. One issue maybe for Magic down the line, that if you look, you can see it on his gold now, he's running out everywhere. He was burning a lot of gold because he had about double the income of LucifroN for several minutes. Lucy, on the other hand, has plenty of gold remaining around the center and the flanks that he can extract for a resurgence into Knights or Arbor Trio.
Keep in mind that the Chinese still do have passive gold income throughout the game, so he's going to have access to the Imperial officials collecting gold, but
it's small though, right?
It's small. It works out to be about 14 to 1500 gold a minute if you can get it really optimized, but it requires SimCity levels of precision. Let's just say that much.
It does. I know these guys can be micro gods, but like there's something else to that, especially when these big fights are going on to try and optimize for the attacks.
Now, I guess my next question is, we're starting to reach that phase in the game where 40 minutes through, do we dare see trade?
I wondered about this. Like, Prairie in theory could allow this to happen, and if you think about where all the tension is right now, I could see a world in which Magic tries to dip for it. I think it's harder for LucifroN because these Fire Lancers are getting in deep now, while Lucy is kind of becoming parked. That could change though, because if you see this, he's going mass Horseman. It looks like he's just trying to dive past the front line again.
Oh, well, we'll have to wait and see whether trade becomes a reality for either of these players. But another thing to note is that we've got no stone walls coming out, which is quite rare on this map. You know, typically we see that sort of onion defense play style where players go for a palisade wall and then a second palisade wall and then a stone wall in front. But no stone walls here.
It's so difficult with everything going on. It feels like you need all the stone for additional keeps, and it feels like it's a very wide map to try and stone wall on. Just think back to how Magic set up his palisades initially. He took it small piece by small piece. Usually when people stone wall, they're looking to get a third done in one go.
Yeah, all right. Well, I guess realistically, everyone's just been spending so much money in the middle, haven't they? You know, it's been so cutthroat in there, and now all of a sudden it looks like the push is really starting to come through for Magic.
There's delayed bombards.
Yeah, and with the bombards coming out now, keep in mind the Chinese bombards have got unique upgrades here that allow them to fire faster than any other bombard out there. The Rus get an upgrade, but I don't think it's as strong. I think it might be 5% different.
And that's why clearly we put 4 bombards on the top instead of the 2 that I believe there is because they're that good, right? We have to represent it. In fact, we can just do a Control-Shift-A. We can confirm whether it's 2 or 3 bombards. I think it is 2.
See, I did a Control-Shift-A in the pub once, and my game crashed, and then I just never did Control-Shift-A ever again.
Don't press those buttons.
I've been very cautious. I've never pressed it once ever again. So for anybody wondering, that's the command that selects all units on the map. Yeah, perhaps I just did it at the wrong time. Maybe there were too many units on the map. But those bombards are looking really solid here. Now, keep in mind, over on the LucifroN side, we do see Royal Cannons coming out as well. So he's looking to try and respond. Double Royal Cannon here as well. So maybe looking to deal with the keeps of his enemy. But
I feel like you lose that exchange, right? Between the Pyrotechnics and the additional health, the bombards should win out in one-on-ones.
Yeah, well, keep in mind the Pyrotechnics no longer affects the bombards.
Oh, you're right. I'm being a Muppet.
Yeah. But I still remember those days very fondly. I miss that.
The extra health makes it a draw, though, right?
It does, definitely. Yeah. The extra health really puts them ahead. But
okay, it's definitely not a draw if this happens. The Fire Lancers are in again.
Yeah, Fire Lancers have this natural advantage against Siege. But the Villagers are doing a pretty decent job managing to keep it alive. You can see LucifroN really scrambling. And the villager count for both of these players starting to drop now.
What I love is there's this small village in your way, you're on horseback with a long spear, and instead of stabbing over the villager, you run around them.
All right, well, he's managing to pull this one out. The Mangonel still sits on the backside as well, looking pretty decent. But I guess the question is, where do we see the game going from here? Because we're 43 minutes in. It's been an absolute nail-biter from here. It looked like the French player, LucifroN, was going to win multiple times, but still, Magic held on. Who do you favor currently?
I actually give an edge over to Magic. I think like when both of these civs run out of gold, I think the French get hurt a lot more than the Chinese. Another thing to keep in mind is I'm looking at wood. There's a very big difference here in what's happening in the map, and I don't really think there's that much wood left on both sides. And we've seen how often this happens. When you go into the full stalemate, whoever gets the trees on their side, or whoever gets more of them, tends to come out ahead.
Yeah, that's a good point. A little bit more versatility in your compositions that you can provide, but still these non-stop raids coming through. Just the consequence of never finishing up that wall from Magic. You always left a bit of a hole in the middle.
Magic is losing so many villages right now. Look at what's happening here. It's 71 to 114. Something's slipping. Magic is falling drastically behind. Sure, he's got all this wood in the bank, but maybe I have to take it back because now I feel like he's struggling to keep up on both food and gold.
And take a look at the population difference. It almost just over.
That's what I mean. This is ridiculous.
95 population versus 194. This could be it right now, KP.
I think it is. He's going to lose the siege as well. This is not going to stop. The only thing missing for LucifroN are the cannons. He did lose the Royal Bombards, but he can easily replace them. Once that happens, all this fallen infrastructure, all these keeps are going to be gone, and all that wood you've gathered is simply going to be used to replace all that was lost.
What went wrong this game for him? Because everything looked good. I mean, you've got China in the late game. You know, typically China shouldn't be losing this up against the French. One of the best late games against one of the worst. What went wrong?
It's the mid-game map control. LucifroN took more of the map safely, so his villages spread out and took everything. Magic had to gamble in areas. He had to come to dangerous areas. You know, you're meant to have your villages humbly gathering at home. There's a war zone going on, and they're there going, that straggler tree looks good, let's get that. You even saw it where he had his forward keep. He was on the wood line there. That's where he lost so many villages. Just great plays by LucifroN, and now he's looking to dive deep.
Yeah, he's starting to get in onto the farmline, and once you start getting there, that's where it gets really hard, because now your food production is going to be hampered. You're not going to be able to get units out. You're not going to be able to defend yourself, but he's holding on for dear life. Military difference right now, it's 3-1 in LucifroN's favor.
Hey, it's getting ridiculous on the eco count as well. It's almost a double up for the French, and the other guy's the Chinese. You don't say that often.
Yeah, you definitely do not. I think the biggest thing to pull for me, drawing away from this game, is that Magic just didn't finish those walls off. Had he just walled off the front, it gives him so much more flexibility in his defensive options. But unfortunately, it never happened, and those run-bys just kept on happening, and LucifroN was finally weaseling his way through, and that was the exact way he needed to find a pocket back into this game.
I think this is a perfect example of how Fire Lancers can be a little bit bait. GG is going to get called, so Magic will give it over. LucifroN takes the first game and makes it a second time that the Chinese have lost to the French. Now it is still 4 in favor of the Chinese, but 2 wins for the French.
Yeah, so definitely a bit of an upset right there. Obviously, LucifroN comes in to this series being a favorite over Magic, though Magic technically did beat Marine Lord, so I guess anything's possible.
He's the new #1 seed, right?
Well, exactly.
That's how it works.
I guess even when it comes to civilizations, a bit of an upset, though, because it's the Chinese against the French. Once it gets to the late game, I mean, I can't believe that. That's just impressive play right there from LucifroN.
Yeah, I think LucifroN held firm, and he understood what was happening with the compositions. Magic went very heavy into Fire Lancers, and Fire Lancers are great. They have their place, they have their use. I am always of the opinion that Fire Lancers are a bit of a bait, though. When you just keep pushing them non-stop, your economy breaks. And I think that's what we saw here. When I loved them was when we saw Siege. When Siege was coming out, I understand Magic's justification because they blitz through them. But they failed to blitz for anything else. Everything else is a hot knife through the butter that is the Lancer.
I've made this mistake before, and I realized only after maybe doing it 3 or 4 times, Fire Lancers are not a replacement for Horsemen.
No.
They are not at all. And in that situation where we see so many Arbilatria all packed together, you look at that and you think, oh, Fire Lancers would be great here. And yeah, sure, they would. But do not discount the fact you need Horsemen there.
And, you know, it's only 20 gold each, right? But when you think about how many he's pushing, and you saw how much he was exhausting his gold, how quickly he's running out, if you add up the cost of all those Fire Lancers across that game, now you know where all that gold went. Maybe that stops him getting additional siege. Maybe that stops him getting even more of the hand cannoneers. Because this is the weird thing, that Magic's trying to pivot towards a full premium army, but he's pushing premium cannon fodder in the Fire Lancers as well. But just great patience from LucifroN. I think one of the big pivots that helped him a lot in the mid game, we saw him stop pushing Knights and go into Horsemen. You ask why he's doing it, that's exactly why. You know, he's like, it's going to be a cold winter. I need to make sure that I've stockpiled for it.
Yeah, and it worked for him well. I mean, he spent most of his gold on Siege, Arbilatria, and as a result, he was able to put all the rest of the resources into Horsemen and use them as that front line. But we move on to game number 2. There's lots of maps here, so I guess when it comes to theory crafting about what the potential maps could be, there are a lot of options, because keep in mind that Magic can actually choose from the maps that LucifroN has got. So if he wants to throw, you know, a curveball here, he could look to Mediterranean or Boulder Bay, but he'd be very bold to do so, wouldn't he?
Well, he's got the HRE. I think you want to try and find a world in which you can force an HRE pick out of LucifroN and then come in with HRE over the top of yourself for a water map. It's just the dominant Civ, there's no doubt about it. They also both have Ottomans. There's a lot of kind of haha, I've got it two moments here.
Yep.
One thing that I do see that Magic has that Lucy didn't choose to go to was the English. The English could be really good for a Gorge pick. I actually think that they might be the best pick on that map. Even if your opponent comes over the top of Ottomans or French or whatever have you, the gold's just too exposed, and we've seen time and time again players like Mr. exploit that. By the way, English, the most played Civ so far, they have been played 17 times.
That's a lot of times. I guess my thinking is that obviously, yeah, English makes sense on Gorge, but English don't have the best matchup against the French. So all of a sudden it becomes, well, yeah, you can pick Gorge, you can pick the English. French are going to be wonderful again here on that map.
I think it's the exposed resources though, right? Like that's what we've seen work so well for the English. You just drop a rack, you push a few men at arms.
I do like that a lot. How do you deal with that? Honestly, I still don't know. You know,
you don't.
Yeah, like as Recon said, right? Like, I don't know what to do against that. It's what do you do?
But like, I think I talked, when we had Holy Island and we were doing a lot of Holy Island, I talked to a few players and they said maybe the one Civ that can counter it is French, because on Holy Island you both do get Feudal Age, so then you push Knights. But you have to get there first. It's one of those dicey things, because I think I discussed this with Magic and he was asking, you know, Mongols was the kind of priority, but I said, you know, LucifroN likes his French. He will also pick French, if you're wondering. And then on the other side, Lucy just perfectly knew the Delhi, the bans would be the optimal way to go. It's kind of a tough one coming this tournament, because I think Magic, I don't know if he felt like he'd be able to use the Bastards more. I know that he is like historically a really good player on them. And he was one of the players that ranked them highly. In fact, across the board, everyone more or less ranked them third or fourth as best Civ. But I see a Bastards in your pool on both sides, and it's almost like a shrug. The only map I could see them being somewhat viable on is Mediterranean.
I feel like Basin, they could be an okay pick as well. We did see some pretty good success from him in the first round with Avisid on Basin. He went for a 5 TC play.
That's true, I remember that one. That was absolutely absurd. But you know what? Looks like we are being prepped for this game. It should just be a few minutes till there. While we wait, why don't we go across for an interview and feel out the players for their thoughts?
My name is Pedro, also known as LucifroN in esports, and I'm from Barcelona, Spain. And I've played mostly with my brother, like Vortex, he's also competing in the tournament, and as well with some of the players in the other group, in the Group A. This tournament is the one I've practiced the most since AOE4 was released. Honestly, I've been having a lot of fun playing the game. Like the new version, I feel like it's a really good upgrade, that they have improved a lot of things. 100% of my games have been against other top players. And I don't know, I think I have a solid chance. Like, obviously everyone here is great, so it will be tough, but I feel like this is my biggest chance ever since AOE4 was released. My brother is one of the 2 players I really want to avoid in the tournament. Not only because he's my brother, but because he's really strong right now. We've played against each other many times, but you don't really get used to it. You still want to avoid him, so yeah. In general, I would say Marinlord and Vortex are like the 2 fastest players, the 2 players with like the best micro control, the best unit control. Those 2 are the 2 that I feel that even if I play my best, it will be really hard to beat them. Anyone that isn't Marinlord or Vortex, I think I have a chance to beat.
Well, it makes a lot of sense he wants to avoid his brother. Having spent so much time practicing with him, I mean, he knows all of the secrets, doesn't he?
Yeah, and it's a spooky thing. We've got that kind of circumstance coming out later today with the Recon Mr. series, where they're more or less scrim buddies constantly. So you're going to see that kind of thing that he was trying to avoid. Of course, he unluckily lucks out in avoiding that problem with his brother being out. Vortex was eliminated yesterday. But interesting one in there is he mentioned Marinlord. Well, this guy on the other side beat Marinlord. So is he more threatening to you?
It's an interesting question, isn't it, right? You know, he's now seed number 1, and we're going to be moving into game number 2 shortly. Civilization picks. One of the things that I've been noticing is that Ottomans seem to be quite popular. Unfortunately, not the Malians. They didn't see a pick here today at all, which is unfortunate, because I know that there's going to be a lot of people looking forward to seeing the Malians.
Yeah, they got all those picks on the first 2 days, Drongo. What do you want? Okay, that was admittedly because you have to pick them if you got the last pick.
They were the last pick, unfortunately. But we do have confirmation on the next map. It is going to be Basin. And so with that, does Magic look towards his safe pick of the Abbasid dynasty? We're in a best of 5 here. This is a pivotal moment.
The only issue with the Abbasids is what was he playing against in that game when we watched it? It was a slower Civ Marine Lord was playing, right? It wasn't an aggressive one.
No, it wasn't Delhi. Good question. Maybe Holy. No, it wasn't.
Was it Chinese?
Yeah, I think it might have been Chinese.
It was something like that. Yeah, I think it's Chinese.
2 TCs on Dynasty against 5 TCs.
Yeah, he went wide. So now this is the issue. This is the problem with that. If you go Bastards here, which he is, if there's a French bit coming out, yeah, exactly. This was my worry. So the difference here is that in that game you just referenced, the Chinese aren't going to rush you. They're not going to be aggressive. They're not going to be in your face. French are. One of the weaknesses of Basin is that you are very limited in your area at the start. It's easily defendable, but it also means you've got nowhere to really build. And the resources you want are far out. A Civ like the French, especially with these stealth forests, can sneak a few knights out and make your life a living hell.
Yeah, really good point. Keep in mind there's a lot of wood lines, though, on this map. So it's going to be easy for him to wall off, be a little bit more defensive. Maybe he looks to get some spearmen out early, and in the event that this does go late, you'd have to give the advantage over to the Abbasid dynasty. But we just saw LucifroN beat the Chinese, one of the best late-game civilizations, with the French. And it was at the 45-minute mark. So you can't count him out, really.
And one thing I will give credit to Magic for in that last game, even though it's a loss, is I like the way he approached walling. He wasn't incredibly gluttonous like we've seen some players do, where they just tried to take a third of the map walled straight away. Yeah. He negotiated between tree lines. And to all those tree lines you mentioned, this is the type of map where you can do that. We have more traditionally sim players around the 30-minute mark just move out and make a giant stone wall on the left stealth forest and on the right one, and then say this open area is now our battlefield. But that's more typical of a civ like the Chinese.
Yes, that is definitely it. So I guess for me, the question is, what type of strategy do we see here out of Magic? How soon is he going to be looking for that second town center? And when LucifroN when LucifroN's judging this, is he going to be thinking about a second town center himself? Because I think it's likely.
So the thing with LucifroN is if he sees something that looks tasty, he'll do it. We actually saw this in the Puppy Paw series where LucifroN, he was playing against Delhi as the French. I think he had like reasonable aggression. Even though he couldn't kill villages, he was like blocking them off at times. But then he got to a stage where it's like, I want that secondary TC. Oh, look, there's all these deer stacks, 2 deer stacks next to each other. I want it even more. And that maybe sets him back. So I think you have to time your French TC boom very delicately in this matchup.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second game in this series. Keep in mind, this is a best of 5, so we've got plenty more action between these two guys. Magic down on the south side, playing as the Abbasid dynasty. LucifroN in the north as the French. Who do you favor here, KP?
So first thing I'm going to be checking is the resource layout, like how hard it is to reach these outliers. By the looks of it, actually, this is a very nice generation for Magic. On the south side, you've got a bunch of condensed berries. You've got some nice wall points, but there is a weakness just here north of the Sacred Site where it's a lot of open ground.
This is very open. And one of the mistakes we did see him make in the last game was that he left his front door open. He locked the side doors, but the front door remained open. So I hope he's learned from that mistake, looks to close that thing off, and hopefully doesn't see any big raids coming through from LucifroN's French once again.
Yeah, it's like that feeling where there's the axe murderer trying to get you. You lock the back door, you lock the front door, and then he just comes through the glass pane. Like,
didn't see that.
Whoops! I left the window open.
All right.
We'll see how it plays out. For LucifroN, there is a kind of temptation to maybe go for a secondary TC near the deer stack 40 base. I think it's just better to play pocket ecos here. Looking for an opportunity to punish Magic being the greedy one. For Magic's opening, he probably is going to be delayed on his TC timing because he'll have to go into racks first because of how early these knights come out.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be a wise choice for him. Keep in mind the Abbasid, they love to go for that early racks. Get that spearman mass building because they have got super duper good spearmen rather, the best in the game because of that phalanx upgrade.
I mean, how would we rank that? Is there any, like, I feel like there's normal spearmen, then there's like maybe a second layer where you've got, who would you have there? Because I feel like at Basses, there's someone just below them that I'm missing.
I'd have to have a think about it.
Maybe like the Donzos.
Donzos are pretty good.
So you've got Spearman, Super Spearman, and Super Duper Spearman. That's our tier system, my friend.
I think it works, but I mean that's not the only upgrade that they've got that is unique. They've also got the military school with the extra health from the military wing.
Boot camp, right? Yeah, from the military wing. It's a juicy one. And this time around, it's just going to be the typical open eco wings. I'm expecting this in every land map. The Abbasids, it's too good. Fresh Food Stuffs is just too incredible of a tech to ever turn your nose up at.
Yeah, 25%. Or
50%.
Rather 50%, 25 food rather on those villages. It's insane when you think about it.
It is. It's absolutely nutty. It's just the ramifications if you get into a TC boom race. I think this is a big reason why Abbasids were the S tier civ of the previous patch, because the previous patch was the TC meta. everyone wanted to boom. So naturally, you were just able to get more bang for buck, and it led into surplus resources that you could invest into mid-game army. Usually, you remember the Bastards, the peak time used to be around 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I think they're heavily set back now just because of the delay and how long it takes to build TCs, and the fact that other people are looking to aggress instead of being greedy.
Well, speaking of TCs, how many TCs do you think we're going to see today? Because
10. Nah, I'm kidding. It could be 3, maybe he'll try to reach, I think, with this layout, possibly 4. But the crazy part is I think that game we watched with Magic, I felt like 3 was good, and then he was like, no, there's enough here for 5.
yeah, I like that as well. It's interesting, right? Because when you compare like Age of Empires 2 to Age of Empires 4, the games are quite similar, and there's definitely a proclivity for players to move towards higher amounts of TCs throughout the game as it goes on longer. Yet here we see players very comfortable on just 3 TCs, and that's it. So perhaps there's this new playstyle from Magic that's been pioneered here at this event, where you just go for more TCs. And obviously, if there's a civilization to do it, it's the Abbasid with the extra, or the cheaper villages. But I like the way that it plays. There's so many advantages to it. You know, you think about a raid in the late game, 5 villages dead. Well, there's 5 villages replaced.
And you know, one of the tough things that maybe doesn't get talked about is the Abbasids were definitely very hard hit by the TC changes for obvious reasons. But also the initial TC timing was hit. Because usually by the time you're moving on to the mining camp, you don't have the level 1 House of Wisdom Golden Age yet. So you haven't got your gathering rate increase. So an extra 50 stone has set you back more than where you would have been before.
All right, well, the knight begins to come in. It looks like he's going to be able to get a tag on a villager, but that is going to be it. So
Nice little walls.
yeah, very cute little walls coming out here.
Magic does this a lot. He actually done it in the Chinese game. If you remember, he done the long wall and then he done a smaller wall towards his TC just to try and break up the flow of the French.
Yeah, very smart. I do like this a lot. It definitely controls where the enemy can go and forces them into places where it makes it easier for you to challenge them.
Nice little micro coming out from Magic, just trying to protect those berry lines as long as possible. Of course, this is one of the exploitable weaknesses of the Bastards sometimes in this matchup. They want to be on berries. They need to be on berries. They have more exposed economy than other civs at this stage.
He's got to be so careful, though. There's 2 knights now in his base, and the villagers making a bit of a run for it. 2 spearmen going to be coming out. Now, if his micro is good, LucifroN can choose to take this.
Go to the stone. Just immediately go into the stone. Punish him there.
And he's back over towards the stone. Yeah, look at this. Villager.
That's a freebie.
Yeah, that one's going down for sure.
Man, it's so frustrating to play against LucifroN. He's really good at this. I mentioned that he has a proclivity towards raiding, and I can't think of a better civ for doing it than the French.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And we look behind this. We're still yet to see any additional town center or any additional stone gathered, but there is going to be an archery range dropped down. Now, keep in mind, he's also picked up a couple of economic upgrades as well. We see double broadaxe as well as wheelbarrow coming through for him. So
yeah, he delayed it to get the knight out very quickly here, which I like because the Bastards want to be greedy, so you want to strip that away. And I actually like that he's not going for a TC because if you look at the layout of the resources, we said that Magic has all these forward spawns that create natural defenses. That also means your gathering points are at the front of your base.
look at this relentless raiding as well. There's a villager about to go down. Yeah, geez, he's just, this is another level, isn't it? This is just crazy watching him play like this.
It gets more annoying in the next 2 minutes because I'd expect him, like after he's got archery range down, maybe up to 5 or 6 archers, to consider dropping a blacksmith's. So then these French knights are going to be able to two-tap the villagers.
Yeah, this is where it really starts to get scary. We also see the dropping down the mining camp on the stone. So it looks like a second town center is going to be the play here from LucifroN. He's done a lot of damage in the early game, not just through idle time, but just through killing villagers.
Right, he shouldn't be able to get around the back there. That tree line should be...
I've seen many sus-looking tree lines
There's no
before.
way, right?
That is a very sus tree line.
Us, would it? It would do it to us. Surely you get knocked off your horse as you ran past that by the branches.
Yeah. Well, it looks like he's going to be found out here as well. Fortunately, the spearman was tailing him.
Oh, man.
Oh, he loses line of sight. He just returned. Oh,
I've seen this so many times on basin. Sometimes it's a little bit more apparent, but people just don't check the backside because there's a tree line there. You just naturally think, oh, it's safe.
Yeah.
I remember one LCQ game, a very important one, I think it's the final series, where a guy went out of his way to chop through a tree line to get past it, and he could just walked left and went around.
All right, well, it looks like the knight has made its way through. He's looking to try and take out a villager or two. He's going to get the first one. Second one makes it back to safety.
He has an exit. Thank you.
Oh, my Lord.
I was waiting for that, yeah, because I saw the chopper a while ago, but I thought he was going to go in that way and not come out.
He picks off another spearman as well over on that left side. Jeez, he's played this absolutely immaculately. You can't fault him, can you?
Yeah, it's so annoying. Like I said, LucifroN, I think he's one of the most lethal French players. I think I put him top 3 in the way that he plays French out of all the players here. You know, people definitely put Marine Lord #1, and he'd probably slap me around the face if I didn't say he was #1 at playing French because he thinks it's still his signature civ.
Yeah.
But LucifroN is a close second or maybe third.
Honestly, just watching this, and I know there's probably going to be a lot of people at home watching this and maybe thinking the same thing that I'm thinking. I'm thinking, why don't I just become a French main? This looks so easy.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not that easy. There's so much control that's going in here. Right now, he's probably sitting at about 400 to 500 effective APM because he's got villages to produce. He's got units to produce. He's got to move villages around. And speaking of villages moving around right now, Magic just not looking good. Perhaps not his day here. He's going for a bit of a surround. Oh, he's managed to do it as well. So that's going to be... Oh, no, never mind.
Oh, no, he slipped by.
Jeez,
he botted him up. You just can't grab these knights. They're going to make their way out still once again. And I wouldn't be surprised if we just start seeing Chivalry start to kick in this rate. Also now villagers moving out for that wide secondary TC. This is a popular play for LucifroN. If there's any sort of deer spawn or anything of the sorts on the edge, he loves doing this. He's one of those players that wants to drop a town center on the edge of the map because there's less flank points. It's much harder to punish him there with raids.
Now, one thing to note is that despite being only on 1 TC apiece, there's a 7 villager advantage already. Keep in mind, French make their villages faster than other civilizations, and the Abbasid has lost 4 villagers already.
Yeah, I was about to say, and keep in mind, a lot more Abbasid villagers are going to die.
Yeah, that's very true. But I'm curious what direction Magic is going to go. It looks like he's dropping his 2nd TC down, but we do get the read there. It's going to be more than 2 TCs. He's going for a 3rd one.
He has to now. Yep. It's one of those situations where, you know, some people are like, is this too greedy? Does he need to now match the French aggression? How do you catch up to the French aggression? You have to negotiate for chunks of the map with TC drops. And that's dangerous now because of the changes. It takes an extra 30 seconds to build these TCs. With 1 villager, of course, it scales down. But, oh, Piggy, that was a mistake by LucifroN. Luckily, he gets in the way just in time, so won't lose villagers for it.
Yes, an unintended consequence of attacking the boar right there. But yeah, fortunately, he's got it nice and close. So what a beautiful spot he's got out here. The boar as well as those 7 deer. He's looking at 4,500 food. That's going to be gathered faster. We'll take a look and check on his mill and see whether he's picked up survival techniques just yet. We'll have a look. Here we go. He has indeed. So he's got maximum gather rate on these.
Yeah, and it's boar plus deer, right? So like that TC extension is going to get so much value. And this is a rough part. Like if you compare the two, Magic didn't get as much value. He's got gold and berries. The berries are great, but right now you don't need gold. You need a lot more wood and a lot more food.
Yeah, really good point. It looks like he's also stopped gathering stone, so it's not going to be that 4 or 5 town center play that we did see coming out earlier from him. It's just going to be the 3 TCs. So the numbers continue moving up for LucifroN. Do you think he's going to look to try and play it out a bit longer in Feudal here? Because in the last game, we did see him go up quite quickly. As soon as his enemy aged, he aged.
I think he just keeps playing Feudal. It's a beneficial matchup at this stage. You don't want to give an opportunity for the Abbasids to full TC boom. You don't want to see them reach Castle Age. I think the Abbasids really need Castle Age now in this matchup from where he's playing in the game. So if LucifroN just continues a full-out aggressive stance, he can probably just keep extracting value. Because as Magic has to drop more TCs, he's actually offering up more weak points for LucifroN to punch. Yeah,
okay. That's a good point. All right, well, the Knights are now coming through, looking towards the front side. Just trying to find a way through.
Has he got Siege Engineering?
That's a good question. You know, that's probably a pretty important tech that should be up on that UI now that I think about it.
Especially with this Stealth Forest. Like, it's so easy because remember, TCs can't see into Stealth Forest. You could just sneak a ram in here and then surprise him.
Yeah.
Speaking of surprises. Hello!
There he is. But fortunately, Magic paying attention. Have a look at the difference in score as well. We see a 500 score lead already coming out for LucifroN. I often tell people don't really pay attention to it, but it feels like at this point in the game, that's already a pretty decent size advantage.
Don't pay attention to it, but pay attention to it. Every little detail could help here. Of course, you can see LucifroN was like, let's do this again. Seems like he's overchopped, but no, Magic has moved fully back. This was the weakness we talked about. His resources were forward of his base. At least the nice thing he gets on that extension TC, although it's only small wood clusters, it is behind his lines, less likely to get extracted like this.
All right, well, we do see Siege Engineering coming through now for LucifroN. So you asked that question earlier.
Stay in the forest. Stay in the forest and do it, though.
Yeah, you reckon?
Yeah, because it's a slow build-up, right? And if you let Magic know what you're doing, he might just double down on Horsemen.
Yep. That's a smart move. Now, I guess the next question I've got is, do you think we start to see Camel Archers coming out soon? Magic just sticking with a bit of a traditional comp here, full melee. Does he dare go into a Camel or two?
Do you really have the food for it? Oh, let alone the time.
Yeah, that's true. And now you will spot the battering ram coming out now.
That's a great play.
What type of response do we see from Magic here? Now, I would be thinking the first response would probably be something like Textiles. Want to get a little bit more health on the villagers, but at the same time, maybe an extra stable or two drop down just to build up that horseman number.
I don't think you can afford to like delay the TC's production of villagers or the little expenditure along the way into Textiles. The gold is the worrying detail for me. If he shifts more people to gold, the idle time walking over hurts you. He just needs to get as much food and wood as possible and just mass horsemen and spears. And then it's a matter of how well you micro the battles. If LucifroN is off point slightly with his archer usage, he could get swarmed.
Well, the numbers here aren't terrible for Magic. He's up to 11 horsemen at the moment. Only one more in queue at the moment, and a whole bunch of Vills coming back.
He needs like 24 at least, but the problem is the number's going to keep changing because LucifroN's up to 14 knights. That's going to probably be around 20 by the time you're at 24.
Yep.
This is a very, very difficult place for Magic to now defend.
Yeah, I still do like it, as long as he's got villagers nearby that he can pull, because he's going to need a lot of villagers here. So you pay very close attention. He needs villagers for his town center to be occupied inside. He needs villagers repairing the town center, and he also needs villagers to be sieging down the rams.
Exactly. Bait them in to a fight on the side, and then the rams get annihilated. Nice wraparound coming in here. It looks like LucifroN got a bit gluttonous, didn't split the archers off from the knights. It means he's going to have to retreat away, exposing his squishy underbelly, and now villagers will come out to address that ram. It's just a question mark on whether they'll be able to kill them off quick enough.
The archers have done a pretty decent job in thinning down that mass of spearmen, but the knight numbers are still looking very solid here for LucifroN.
The villagers?
It's not looking pretty right now. 15 knights for LucifroN. His
Just
win condition is going to be having more knights than his enemy can hold on to, and LucifroN looking very solid in this second game. KP.
There's nowhere to go. There's no way to recover. Magic, this was his one lifeline. Look behind. He hasn't moved north at all. The deer are too far out. Unless LucifroN just goes back and says, I like the idea of Castle Age and TC booms, Magic is probably on the ropes, about to be KO'd in this second game.
Yeah, he's looking very solid here. A little bit of a surround trying to come through, but once again, those knights doing a great job of screening, and you can see the archers just...
He's so on point.
Yeah, his micro is amazing and good game. Going to get called. A quick 2-0 right there for LucifroN.
This is someone I was worried about. I was talking to players. I don't like to reveal too much. I don't like to tell them what to do or whatever. I mean, I'm not a pro player, right? But sometimes they ask your input. I don't want to give an unfair advantage, but listening to what was being said before the series, there was a feeling that French are weak by a lot of players. There was a feeling that the Mongol bans were more worthwhile because that was threatening to the way that Magic wanted to play. But it seems like the tempo, aggressive nature of the French is still there. And coming to this event, that was something I was trying to highlight, is the TC boom meta is kind of dead in my eyes. I think just going all in for these aggressive timings like they did at release is the most impactful way to use the Civ, as LucifroN has now presented once. And I'd say even the first game early on, he showed the importance of doing that.
Yeah. Beautiful stuff there from LucifroN. Honestly, he's looking incredible. He's in fine form at the moment. You know, coming into this event, as I mentioned earlier, the bit of a question mark. We know he's a great player, but he's not quite that top two. He's definitely not an underdog. And the question was how he's going to perform, and obviously he's performing amazingly today.
Most people had him top 7, a few people had him top 4. So this is what I was expecting. And just to kind of recap my point around the French TCs, I'm not saying don't build TCs ever. I'm saying don't start going and building it straight away, right? Read the game, feel what you can do here. And what we saw in the second game is the weakness of basin that I was talking about. When you lose map control, you naturally have to come up for new resources. The old TC boom builds and how quick they were allowed you to do that. The new ones are very punishable. But let's look forward here, right? That's 2 losses, Magic on the ropes here. You got to mentally reset. You can't feel the pressure at all. This is a guy that looks calm as a cucumber, but I know he can feel the nerves. But he's got to look at the positives. French are gone.
That's a positive, because as we mentioned earlier, he's got that English pick in his pocket.
Yes.
He's got Gorge as a home map. If he wants to pick it, he can also go for one of the water maps for LucifroN. But typically they're going to trend towards their own home maps. That's where they're comfortable. And English do very well there. French have a great matchup into English, but with no French left, it makes great sense for now the English to shine.
One of the tough parts I do see for Magic is he might just have to pull Ottomans on Gorge, because if you look at what he's got left over, it's HRE, English, and Rus. And if you go into 2 water maps, which you now need to win all the rain maps, you need to win 2 water maps. We've seen Ottomans, the build, maybe there's something there. We saw 2 players attempt it. It flopped both times on the Boulder Bay. I think you have to use English and HRE. HRE for obvious reasons, and English, I think, perform better than the Rus on Boulder Bay.
Yeah, for me, I would be thinking about the English on Mediterranean. That extra range really starts to make a difference on Mediterranean. You're not as close to your enemy, a little bit more range, a little bit more length of that battlefield. The
cooler thing about Boulder Bay for English is that you have the flexibility to do a men-at-arms play early on to deny their docks, whereas Mediterranean, it's too long of a walk to do that efficiently.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I hope we get to see that, and you can see them at the moment, just looking at the draft screen. There we got a little bit of a peek at what Magic is.
What do all these flags mean? Tell me.
I don't know. They're all alien to me. Oh. I'm only familiar with the kangaroo.
It used to be easy for me. I'm like, oh yeah, the green is Delhi. Now there's Ottomans as well.
I know, right?
So
yeah.
Ruined everything.
Fortunately, the Malians are a little bit different, so it's easier for your brain to recognize. But we can confirm the map is Gorge.
I thought so.
So we're going to be diving into another land map. So Magic just keeping it safe, keeping it familiar.
I think it's going to be Ottomans. I think with the what he's got left in the draft, Ottomans makes the most sense. Maybe you want to put your English foot forward because it's the most dominant civ, but I think you weaken yourself elsewhere. And yeah, it is going to be Ottomans. And this kind of screams like a possible throwaway by LucifroN. Like he's 2 points up, and the Ottomans is like one of the biggest threatening factors. Because if the Ottomans are like still flexed elsewhere, maybe there is some of that Boulder Bay build we just don't understand. Abbasids, I don't think we've seen a single Gorge Abbasids here.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, have we even seen this matchup before? Ottomans against the Abbasids?
Oh, that's a fair point, actually. I don't think we have either. Usually it's like Ottomans versus English is the most common one I think we've seen.
And so for me, what I'm thinking about is that game yesterday that we got to witness, game 1 from Marine Lord against Muslim. It was an absolutely beautiful timing attack by Muslim, and he never let up. It's the same window.
Oh my god. You know what we always forget about with the Abbasids is like their ability to just build rams instantaneously.
Yeah.
Ottomans have a slow trigger point. They don't come online as quickly. What if this is like just a 1 TC Abbasid kind of all-in type play with early rams to delete all of those military schools? I mean, it's wacky, right?
It's wacky.
But like,
is a $500,000 tournament wacky?
But like, he's 2 games up. It's experimental. It could be a very good way to like blitz this. Because my other thought process is, what do you do otherwise? The berries are not saturating the area. The expansion resources are far out. Yep. Like, you need to be the aggressor here. If you're an Abbassid player coming in and sitting in your base, you have limited wood, you have limited resources, and you have limited points to defend, right? We've seen how open this is. Gorge is probably the most undefendable map for players next to Prairie, but let's not talk about Prairie. It's time for some Gorge.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 3 in this series. We're in the quarterfinals now. It is a best of 5, and right now, there is a potential chance for LucifroN to head on through to the semis, or for Magic to go home. He's got to be very careful. We're on match point.
This should be a fun one. So Magic playing the Ottomans, LucifroN on the Abbasids. I want to check what's happening in these spawns, because sometimes you get forward spawning woods. This time it's retracted. Issue with that is, like, usually the forward one can kind of feel nice, because if you're against like an outposty rush civ, you can just pivot to the other side of your base. It's nice. It comes down to how static they are. I think it's maybe more beneficial for LucifroN that he got this spawn on the back. Yeah. Whereas if he had the forward spawn, I feel like the reinforcing archers that Ottomans are going to build will just cut you off anyway. Yeah,
but one thing to note is we do have a military school coming out, so expect to see, it's normally about the 2-minute 30, 2-minute 40 mark that the spearmen are going to be in the enemy base, but do note there is a forward gold mine, and that's what he's going to be looking for, that forward gold mine.
Exactly, and we can see it is forward spawning. I think the interesting thing is, bar a few outliers, typically if one person has a back spawning wood, the other person gets a back spawning wood. Yeah. I think for balancing perspectives, we usually lean towards seeds that do that. Yeah. So the cool thing for Magic on this map is he can see that both of his woods are behind him, so he knows it's going to be on the other side, which means the golds have a very high probability of spawning closer to you.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, isn't it, as well? And I think another thing that you can kind of predict is if you've got a front gold, typically your enemy will have a front gold. Yep. So perhaps he's just logged in or come into the game and seen the front gold and said, I know where your gold is, and just brings out the aggression. So interesting to note is that he's not going to be able to stop the age up here, but what he will be able to do is just be very annoying. But the one difference is he's not opening up with a barracks as well. Sometimes we do see players go for a barracks and going for the military school in the Dark Age. So the villagers should just be able to repel the single spearmen by themselves.
I think the goal here is to kind of maybe bait out some spear on spear, possibly from LucifroN, to insta-react in Dark Age, because your spears are better and you feel confident. And once that happens, the beautiful thing about military schools is like, oh, you made a unit? I can instantly just make another unit for free out of this building. Obviously not instantly, it takes a bit of time to come out, but the transition idea is good. And I think what we're going to probably see out of Magic is reach feudal fairly quickly here, and then go into like a double archery range opening. Because another issue for Lucy is if he doesn't get a lot of sheep, and you look at the additional berry spots afterwards, there's not that much food he can access, so massing horsemen becomes difficult.
Yeah. In addition to that, something that we do see Abbasid players love to do is go for those heavy camel archers, but the problem is if they're going for camel archers, well, the mass of Ottoman archers is going to be very easily able to deal with them.
I feel like this is one of the worst civs to mass camel archers against, even as the game goes on, right? Because they just built Sipahi, and they activate Fortitude.
Oh, big mistake here already early from Magic. He's almost lost that spearman down to 4 health. This is the consequence of being a little bit greedier with the scout. So if we do jump into his POV,
he was getting sheep.
Yeah, he hasn't actually spotted out where the town center is. He did actually run past the gold mine as well. But look at this, a single shiv, and that's going to be it. So
damn,
unfortunate right there, because that's a lot of annoying damage that you can do early on. Look, it's not huge amounts of damage, but it is annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating to lose your first one like that. It's going to be the Madrid opening. This is just the way to go. For a start, there's no trade post on this map, so why would you? And as you've talked about before, it's like one of the go-to landmarks. I think considering the nerfs to things around Golden Gate now, it might just be the best tier 2 landmark in the game.
Yeah, I am of the opinion this landmark is way too good. I wouldn't be surprised that it gets nerfed. So if you're watching this on Twitch right now, or if it's been uploaded to YouTube and you're thinking about landmarks to go for, make sure you building this one while it's this damn good, because it is an amazing landmark. It gives you 4 berries that spawn in every 120 seconds after you've depleted them. So what we see players do typically is just put all their villagers over on that landmark, gather up all the berries, and then after 2 minutes they're going to respawn, and then you go grab them again.
Yeah, well, why do we always give these tips away? Like, why don't we just tell them falsities so that we can go get easy wins on the ladders? Like, yeah, build the trade every game. Every single situation is the best way to go. Don't do any. Build Kremlin as well on the roost. There's no other alternative.
Trade is especially good on maps with no trade post, by the way.
Yeah, definitely do. See, that's the thing. Whenever I'm wrong about an analysis, I totally meant to because I was trying to bait you off, right? Right?
Exactly. It's all about those ladder points. But the new age now begins. Both players up to that second age. And a good little timing here for Magic as well. Up before 5 minutes despite having that military school.
And there's the let's do the dance. I was expecting this. Ottomans will switch their military schools instantly into Sipahi production. And he's just going to spam as many as possible. Because once you see the Spearman, LucifroN's instant reaction, he's thinking, okay, there's 2 possibilities. Like, I either push spears or archers. Because he's either going to keep pushing spears or he's pushing archers. You can't instantly like pivot horseman. You have to react to this first. This is just a great forcing the motion by Magic, and this shows you what value you get out of these military schools that other civs don't have.
Yeah, and I definitely think, judging how this is going so far, Magic's looking pretty solid with this opening build order. Interestingly, he's also keeping villagers on gold. One of the things that we do see Ottoman players do is have almost like a hard transfer away from gold, because once you've aged up, you don't really need it. But I suspect we're going to see upgrades coming through shortly for him, perhaps a wheelbarrow, something like that. But oh, there's a blacksmith. So do we dare even see a +1 ranged armor potentially?
Quite possibly, considering Lucy's relying quite heavily on archers for his defense naturally here. I mentioned like the reason why you just don't want to do horsemen quickly on this map, especially if you think you're going to be the defender. I don't think LucifroN is giving up on the mid-map, but he understands that this isn't one of those matchups where you can just all in on the premium unit type like Men-at-Arms and say, I can end the game quickly. If anything, I think LucifroN benefits more if this becomes a slow clash and the game maybe resolves around 25 minutes just before the Ottomans fully come online.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if we're going to be seeing a repeat of what we saw yesterday with that timing push that came out in the Castle Age. I suspect it might be something similar, but it looks like players are just going to be doing a little bit of dancing in the Feudal Age for the moment. We do see LucifroN also moving over onto Stone. So 7 villagers over there now, so a second town center going to be online shortly, but you will hear that Vizier point coming through in your headset.
Was that the sheep? It's usually the sheep.
Yeah, we'll double check and see if there's any sheep underneath the town center for Magic. I suspect that's probably not yet at this point.
And he didn't get the meta, so it's the remaining one.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. It might be that he's just not done it yet. We'll pull it up. We'll let you guys know very shortly, because we've just opened up the game on...
Yeah, I don't think he's done anything, because there's no imams, there's no sheep, and there's no metas.
Yeah, nothing yet. He's holding his cards close to his chest here.
I mean, it could be that there's enough sheep. Let's think about it too much. Let's think about what's happening here. He's intercepted the production now. I like this. He just parks on top of the archery range and tries to pepper them as they come out, because you can't fight 1 versus 4. You'll just lose every time.
Yeah, you got to be really careful here. But we do see the second rangers come up now, and this is exactly what the Ottomans love to do. He's got the military schools on Spahi. It's that extra food that's being generated for free, and then he's spending very small amounts of food on his own archers, and he's going to start really getting that archer ball rolling.
I think what we're going to see from Magic is a delayed usage into the meta point from his Imperial Council, because he's still holding it for the moment. Unless he runs out of food. Like, basically, this is the thing, folks. When you get Imperial Council points, don't just instantly use them. Wait for a reason to, because in these type of situations, the difference between, oh, I've ran out of food, I desperately need the sheep, but I've used the point already to get the meta, is game-breaking.
Yeah, we want to take a look and see, has he got villagers up on the berries there for the Twin Minaret Madrasa? It looks like he may have...
Yeah, he's got one.
A single one, yeah. So for anyone playing along at home, you want to try and exhaust these as quickly as possible, because of the way that the landmark works. They don't start respawning until there's no berries left. So if you leave it with one left, it's not going to bother respawning. It's not until it's 0 that it happens.
And he went into wheelbarrow, so he could easily shift villagers across from the sheep and not feel hampered. I think it's just he didn't have enough food. You can see how strained he is right now. Between the production. So maybe that's the reason he's a little bit delayed. I did see new villages being produced to go straight there afterwards, though, so he is getting on board with it.
All right. Well, a push out starting to come through from him. We can see he's got a pretty decent mass here of... did you see all the production back there? That was 3 archery ranges. And by the way, you were correct when it came to the Imperial Council. He did indeed go for meta drums.
Yeah, it's time. It's so efficient because you baited LucifroN into building archers. So now you just build mass archers with attack speed aura.
Yep.
You can't beat that as LucifroN. So LucifroN now has to make a hard pivot into Horseman. But right now, you can see he's already behind the passive production of the Sipahi.
Yeah, and it's so interesting as well because for the Ottomans, it's just, there's so much synergy in the way that they play when they go for the wheelbarrow. Typically, we see double broadaxe out of them as well, and a very heavy reliance on archer compositions. And now, once you've got more archers than your enemy, I mean, sure, you can look into a horseman transition or something like that, but it's so easy for the Ottomans to deal with because of that meta, the extra additional speed that they've got out there as well.
Yeah, and the one thing you have to optimize with, right, if you pull out of formation, you're not going to get that movement speed buff, so always be aware of that. That's why he peeled off the Sipahi, because that would hamper things. If you just got spears and archers, they're the same movement speed, so you're not losing out.
Yeah, you can see how fast these units are moved. They're glowing. And, yeah, they're like little race cars, aren't they? Look at them going. He's hunting for that second town center. He knows it's going to be out there somewhere.
So far out there, though. Credit to LucifroN, he hit this well, because most players probably would have went for the deer stack really close to base, because this is such a gamba. But there's only so long this doesn't get sniffed out. Magic is already suspicious.
Yeah, and look at him moving out. You hear that second point coming through.
Wait.
Oh, he doesn't see it.
Oh my god. Do you want to know what makes this so great? It's all the berries, right? It's an Abbasid player.
Oh, the villager! Oh, he sees the true villagers. Does it expose him? Oh, he might not have been paying attention.
There's no way it doesn't get seen, right?
Oh, it could have been. He could have been so fortunate right there. But the horseman numbers
distracted,
starting to get really, really good. Yeah, what's Magic doing right now? A little bit away from the keyboard, perhaps? No, he's still there.
The meta at least gets out there. Interesting enough, LucifroN doesn't snipe it out straight away when he had the opportunity. That would have been a great boon. Instead, he just goes to the main fight, and this clash looks like it more or less is going to be an instant bloodbath on both sides. Horseman should allow him to come out ahead, though, and I've got a big question mark of, like, where are those Sipahi still? Did they ever bother? No, instead, he sent them on the backside to try and extract some eco value instead.
It doesn't feel the best, but he's still maintaining a pretty decent mass here of archers, though. So
it's the meta.
He's going to be able to maintain a pretty decent presence here. Keep in mind that the meta not only going to be buffing up the movement speed of these units, but also the attack speed. At the moment, we've actually got the ranged armor bonus that he's opted for. Yeah, I think in these fights, it makes a lot of sense, right? You're going up against just basic level units. He's still yet to pick up +1 ranged attack over on the other side. So he's mitigating 20% of the damage his enemy's doing. That's huge.
And the logic is that your opponent, like, you can't trade archer to archer. The horsemen have to go as quickly as possible. So as you start to step back, naturally the archer count's never going to disintegrate. I think that was actually the right play by Magic. You know, I've seen plenty of times where you stay in attack speed and you feel like you want to because it seems busted. But I think he would have lost a lot more archers. Good recovery, though. I love the fact he went in with a Sipahi instead. We wondered where they were. They were idling a lot of eco. And whenever you pull this wood line away from working, it means that LucifroN cannot escalate his archer count.
All right, well, for anybody wondering, we did see a third military school, which is going to be Military Campus, the busier point that came through for our Ottoman player. And he's just putting it to great use. We can see 3 Sipahi in queue. So he knows exactly what to do with this civilization. It's beautiful watching these top-level players just mastering these civs already.
Magic's going in again on the berries. The berries on the extension TC. So these archers are distracting. At the same time, he goes in with the Sipahi, and look how many villages are out here. LucifroN with the quick reactions, but still dead villies and idle time alongside it.
Yeah, he pops off that fortitude bonus as well. Keep in mind that fortitude bonus is going to be increasing the attack speed of those Sipahi significantly. So if LucifroN wasn't paying attention in that situation, that damage is going to be done.
The best way to think about fortitude, and this is the thing, fortitude sounds like it's balanced because you attack faster but you die faster. It's really not, because what it is it allows you to win more. When you're winning an engagement, most of the time people are trying to peel back troops or peel back villages, whatever it is. You know, I've talked about this multiple times where, let's say you get behind archers and they have to retreat away from you, or horsemen have to retreat away from you. You activate fortitude. They're not trading with you. They're not doing more return damage. They're just running, which means you're doing 50% more damage on their exit.
Yeah, good point. All right, well, the Sipahi yet to be seen at the moment. There they are. Got to be pulling them up to the front line. Fortunately, they make their way in. And beautiful little screen here at the moment. The archer numbers are looking pretty decent, though, for Magic. He's sitting on double the amount of archers compared to LucifroN. Sipahi hit the backside as well. They pop their fortitude bonus as well, so they're really dishing out some damage. Meta almost going to go down. In fact, he loses his life. But at the same time, look at all these archers just going down. It's a bloodbath everywhere, KP.
It is, but the meta going down really cripples you. Magic was winning these fights off the back of that. It's one of the things I was waiting for LucifroN to do in the last fight. He ignored it for practically the whole fight. In fact, Magic even tried to front line with it to distract him. This time around, he doesn't miss the opportunity. Gets rid of those auras. Movement speed plus the ranged armor or attack speed now means that LucifroN can start to take favorable trades.
Yeah, and the trades are starting to look better for him. And keep in mind, he's got that second town center working. Sure, he's lost a handful of villagers at the moment, but that second town center is just giving him that scaling ability.
And I would love to see Magic go into another meta, because now you feel like you're kind of crippled. It's much more difficult for you to kind of trickle your troops in small bunches and find value.
Well, it looks like Anatolian Hills has been picked up by our Ottoman player. That's going to be the 3rd point spent, so not going into the very typical faster training bonus. No. Instead, just getting himself a little bit more food, and I like that adaptation. Makes a lot of sense.
I think that there's some value, because obviously you're going to run out of sheep. And with these type of comps, you need it. And then on top of that, you need the gathering rates on mining, because if you ever want to tech up, it's one of the most important points you can get in the Imperial Council. But great strike again. It's just, now Magic says, I can't take a direct fight until the meta's back out. So instead, I'm going to drag you left and right with the Sipahi, so you can't come out and punish me for losing the aura. Yeah,
he's looking solid in this game, honestly. It looks like he's channeled his inner French player. You know, earlier in the series, we just saw the French dominating with those early aggression. But now it's LucifroN who's got the shoe on, or rather, Magic who's got the shoe on his foot.
Here's the crazy part. Magic only practiced Ottomans like 5 games. Actually, I think it's 3.
Really?
Before this event.
He's looking this solid on a civ he's played 3 times.
You know what? He took a recipe for success. He stole the strategy from the most wingman's player so far, Puppy Paw.
Oh, yeah.
Who hasn't lost a single game at this event.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You just go check his match history and boom, easy. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense to be doing. Just snipe out the strategy. And I think the Ottomans, they're a civilization, obviously, for anybody who's unfamiliar with the Ottomans. It is a new civilization recently added to Age of Empires 4, but it's very similar to the old civilizations. Compare that to, say, something like the Malians, which is vastly different. It's going to take you a long time to learn. Ottomans, quick to pick up, quick to learn, quick to master.
I think the aura can make them quite different. The way you have to think about Ottomans that makes them incredibly different to other civs is the way their economy functions, or their macro in general functions, because they just produce free units, and they prioritize around that. They escalate into it. I refer to them as a delayed Delhi, right? They're looking to be efficient in trades. For Delhi, it's I can heal up after a fight. For the Ottomans, it's I didn't pay for this.
All right, well, the mass keeps building. He's up to 54 archers, by the way. What do you do against 54 archers? Like, genuinely, at this point, when you even 14 horsemen, you're just going to be laughing at them. And take a look at the upgrades as well. We see +1 ranged armor, +1 melee armor. Over on the other side, though, I mean, upgrades are coming through for LucifroN, but that's not going to mean anything.
Maybe just, like, throw all this wood on a giant pile and set it on fire. Hopefully the archers run into it, because LucifroN's floating an absurd amount of wood.
I don't think his meta's got a buffer active at the moment. Oh, okay, he just switched it on right then. All right, let's see how he goes right now. Numbers looking good. Beautiful attack move right there. Continuing to move back, Spahi on the backside. He's just attack moving the whole time. 65 archers on this field right now for Magic. It is a huge amount of units.
The body block's coming out. Archers just continue to backstep because they can afford to. There's just so many of them, and the Sipahi will wait patiently, because even if you lose all the archers, the Sipahi are then free to go and raid after this fight. A fight that is clearly now going the way of Magic. And keep in mind that LucifroN hasn't walled himself up. He tried to do the north side, but this is still open territory, and that's why he's got this wood. I think he knows he's going to have to make a farm transition, but the question mark is, where do you do it?
Yeah, there's really not a lot of space. I guess you got to go south side. But until then, look at these Spahi just diving in on the back line. A single spearman there. Watch out. That spearman probably going to two-shot these Spahi with the fortitude activated. But look at those archer numbers.
It's a rout.
Keep in mind, he's also got siege engineering, so it's going to be a ram coming up shortly. It's going to be the only way that he goes. But beautifully done there by Magic, demonstrating the prowess with the Ottomans and showing that this civilization, it means business.
It is so dominant. This build is so vile as well. He even went up to 3 archer ranges in the end. One of the more typical builds when you do spearman opening is you go 2 archer ranges afterwards.
Yep.
But this build is just all archers. Spam them up the wazoo, and then of course get your Sipahi for free via the passive production. It's just such an efficient way to play this, and it's amazing that he's doing this on a map that has very limited wood. The reason is because he's a tempo aggressor. Check in the back of Magic's base. He's playing all these small clusters of wood because he can afford to, because LucifroN's never actually came across to that side of the map in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah. I think one of the things that Magic's got to be careful for right now is that we've got full cavalry switch coming in from LucifroN. He's got a single spearman in queue. That's not a big deal. The main thing is that 5 horsemen in queue right now. So he's focusing completely on that. Give him another 60, 70, 80 seconds. That's going to be a lot of horsemen out there, and the potential for him to really strike and take that out. So I would just advocate at this point, maybe Magic could look at diversifying into some spearmen, maybe a few more Spahi himself.
I genuinely think you just keep massing archers. Like, you're at a stage where the horseman count, I don't think you can get high enough quick enough to not just get one shot constantly by these archers. And if you choose to dedicate attention on the rams, you're not killing the unit that's killing you, right? So the whole idea of Magic is he's like choosing to sacrifice an arm or a leg, but either way, he's come out ahead of the fight because every fight, it feels like LucifroN is one step closer to having his head in the guillotine.
Yeah, it really feels like that, and he continues pushing forward. Look at the military difference between these two guys.
Lord.
70 against 35. He's got to be careful with that meta, though. People are going to work out soon that you've got to focus that bad boy down, providing so much effective extra damage here.
I think he's trying to cut off the golden age. Like, he's just ramming every small building on the way past. He's like, no gathering rates for you. That's very difficult to do at this stage, though.
It's a smart move, though. I like the way that it plays.
Well, it's cool because, like, there's a fixed animation on the rams, right? So when you move past, you stop off for one and then, like, move on.
All right, well, he continues posturing down towards his south side. You know, you talked about that farm transition. I said it's got to be south side that he goes for. And look at this. We spot the farms, but it's going to be a problem because Magic means serious business right now. Look at all. He actually spots out some of the stables down here. Does LucifroN go right now?
He has to. I think if you wait too long, you'll lose half of these stables. Also, keep in mind, Magic has more troops come behind this. You see the second wave. I love that from LucifroN. He was trying to intercept. That won't work. Instead, it has to be a frontal clash. Small group of supply to try and block him off. Archers are being picked apart, and he can just stand his ground. Meta, I think he could get sniped. That's the important detail. So maybe LucifroN's able to hold here. This Archer will no longer have the aura, but quick clutch. Magic sends in the second drummer boy, and all of a sudden is surged back into this fight.
Yeah, fortunately, he had to be careful there just to make sure it wasn't on the front line. He did pick it up eventually, but now we continue watching that micro moving backwards slowly but steadily. And the numbers here are just looking way too good for Magic. He just keeps pushing the issue. I think the battering ram's still working against Magic down here to the south. The first one does go down. Second one,
you can't get the second.
There's no possible way.
If you try to kill it, you're going to die. Like, even the horsemen, just look how much damage these archers now do. This is getting frustrating for Lucy. He's going to lose more infrastructure. Also, villagers now in trouble. LucifroN needs all the food he can get to keep the production rates up, which means that these people can't even walk away.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're trading food for villagers, so it's definitely not the right move for him. But unfortunately, once again, the horsemen just aren't enough in number. Typically, you'd want to see double, even triple the horsemen that he's got right here, but remember that extra attack speed means that the micro is going to be even sharper coming out from Magic.
It's a tough one. The meta, it looks like, okay, that's the slip up that happened again, but Magic, he's like, no, that was just a bait. Because look, bro, I've got a constant stream coming out. I think one of his military schools is always producing metas.
Yeah, that's exactly how you do it. Yeah, perfect from him. So even if you do throw one away, you're going to have plenty more where that came from. So beautiful stuff. And now forcing these villagers to go idle. We can see a lot of villagers having to evacuate. And now the villager count starts to dwindle down. He's killed already 24 villagers this game, and it's only going to get worse.
He's leading them to the wood line. He's leading them to his wood, the only wood he's really getting. He has got that secondary TC base where he set up farms, so Lucy's eco doesn't fully die like this, but it is going to cripple his economy while Magic continues to escalate this military lead.
Yeah, it's looking really solid for him. He's got to be careful, though. The horseman number is starting to build up slowly, and he's only got a handful. I say a handful. He's got about 4 handfuls of archers back here. Horseman's still building up, though.
I love this from Magic. He actually peeled off the meta to go with the raiding group so he can move faster and kill villagers, and then he left half of the force here to just juke it out in the base, so LucifroN can't pinch him.
Yeah, but he didn't get that many vills. It looked like he only grabbed about 2 or 3 more
There was
vills.
a wall play.
Yeah.
A really good wall play coming out.
Oh, beautiful stuff right there, but it looks like the numbers still looking good. Magic really putting the pedal to the metal here. Pressure is just non-stop in this game. I'd hate to be LucifroN. This is so difficult to play against, and now we've got the age up coming through as well for Magic.
Oh, good lord.
It's going to be the MIA, and I suspect as soon as that thing comes through,
wave the flag, baby.
That's got to be it, right? There's no way that you hold this position against that inevitable Mangonel, and especially when you're in the second age.
Play French twice in a row. Don't have to stereotypically wave a white flag. Don't play French, and you might find yourself doing it. All of a sudden, Magic getting a resurgence in this series when it mattered most. Remember, these are best of 5, so if he had lost here, he would have been out of the tournament. But it's very difficult to now see a way back in for LucifroN unless Magic does something overly greedy and stops pushing.
Yeah, well, he's got a little bit of a ram dance going on for the moment. Age up about to come through. I'd hope that he looks for the veterancy upgrade as well as the +2 ranged attack upgrade before he goes in for another push, but I know how aggressive these guys get.
Yeah, and you see that farm expansion on the west side is starting to extend.
Yeah.
The problem is whether you can get enough villages out to fill all the farms, because you're not getting farms at home anymore.
All right, well, the veterancy is coming through now for those archers.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, that's quite a nice little raiding force he's got there. He might be looking to pick up reinforcements on the way back through.
I hope so. I think if he dives into his opponent's base, you're going to see the same thing from Magic. And I can tell you, when it comes to both sides idling eco, the almonds function and the bastards don't.
Yeah, it's so smart from Ottoman players to just take those types of base trades simply because they're always producing units. You can't idle them.
It's like, oh, you need resources for your things? Bro, I just get sent stuff by the companies.
You give me time, I give you units.
Yeah.
Well, at this point in time. The Archer mass is really looking solid for Magic. I don't think there's any way this gets defeated.
Look at the villages, the amount that just pulled off there. That's got to be about a third of his food income right now. It's just gone.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of villages. And it's just what you were saying, you know, about where do you put the farms on this map. There's just nowhere to go. Your enemy's got free roam around your base. It makes it so difficult. Now, getting in behind the enemy base, he's looking for more villages. He's looking for units. He'll take anything at this point.
He's like, come on, let's just shuffle you around. Right now, I'm the sheepdog, and you are the sheep, my friend. Let's see where we lead. Berries are even starting to exhaust, and this is the power of being the aggressor. I've always been a believer that this map is undefendable. Like, you have to be the aggressor. You can't be turtling. The meta? Okay. Okay, it doesn't even matter. He just flaunts it. He just slaps them under the TC, says, just call the GG, bro. He does surrender over. So LucifroN will not be able to achieve a clean sweep. Magic pulls one back. The series continues.
All right, well, a beautiful game right there. And, you know, I remember reading a lot of things about the Ottomans, people saying they weren't the strongest civilization, but we are seeing them perform at this event. It's great to see them coming out in the third game, going up against a civilization like the Abbasid dynasty that many people consider to be a top-tier civ. Now, to be honest, the Abbasid haven't had the highest win rate throughout this event, and it continues to get worse for them.
Yeah, these guys are just trying to get Abbasis buffed again, because I don't know about that. I don't know if we need to return to that. I think it's like people still just kind of having teaming issues, trying to figure out how to make the Civ work. But you know what? Because we thought there was a possibility that this series was going to end, because we were maybe wanting to have another interview afterwards, we did line something up instead. We're going to talk with Magic. We're going to get his thoughts before this series. Let's go to an interview with Magic.
My name is Naeem Panchbaya. I am Magic, and I'm from Toronto, Canada. I qualified in the final qualifier, the last chance qualifier, so it was a long journey for me because I had to do all of them. At first I would start with playing the ladder a lot, watching replays, watching VODs. But then I realized I think the better method was custom gaming with top level players. So towards the end of the qualifier I started changing my practice routines and tried to do more customs. Well, I think I have the hardest group because I am the lowest seed, so I have to face Marine Lord, which is seed number 1. But I practiced as much as I could, so I'm just gonna have fun now. Unlike the other players, I have to work a full-time job as well, so my practice is limited to after I finish work and sometimes on the weekends when I have time. It is the best event I think that I've ever attended, especially being in a castle. It's just amazing. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me to be here right now, so it's great. Probably Beastie Cutie. I guess he's after Marine Lord or with Marine Lord. They're the two best players, so he would be the most difficult opponent I would face. But I would rather play him than play somebody like the Mista, because the Mista is a closer friend and I wouldn't want to face him. The one thing I noticed when I was actually preparing for this tournament is everyone is on a very similar level at the moment. I think there's a couple players that edge out the others, but everyone is very close in skill, so I don't think there's any easy opponents.
Always great to hear from Magic. Inspiring considering he's able to bounce one back and make sure the series goes on. And it's time for everyone to put on their swimming trunks, because all we've got left now is puddle fun, rather.
It's going to be 2 water maps that close us out for today. Of course, we only actually need 1, depending on how LucifroN does. But the first map is going to be Mediterranean. So not quite Boulder Bay. You know, often people will look at these maps and say, well, they're kind of similar maps. Well, yeah, they are similar, but they play very differently. Mediterranean, you're far away from your opponent. Boulder Bay, while you're still kind of far away, it's very easy to hit them on land as well.
And I think this is going to be an HRE mirror. I'm
calling it now?
Yeah, it's 100% an HRE mirror. And by the way, just because Magic pulled one back, I'm not going to say like it's easy cruising from here on out. I said that LucifroN threw away Civ in the last game. He definitely did. But he's got great remaining Civs for 2 water maps. He's got both the HRE and the Chinese. On the other side, all Magic's got left, HRE into English. English definitely look formidable. Look to see him bring that out in Boulder Bay, because if your opponent just rushes onto the water, you can build 2 or 3 men at arms and punish him for that.
Yeah, so I guess that's the interesting question. You know, what Civ do you go and where for? So you think Holy Roman Empire mirror coming into this, into Mediterranean, which will be, I think, the first mirror of the event.
Yeah, because, well, you couldn't before, right? Yeah. So those who don't know, like, it's possible for it to happen now because you only get 2 bans each, and there's like 20 picks total remaining at that point. So as you can see, you know, LucifroN stopped the French mirror. You're welcome, by picking it twice himself. Ottomans could have also appeared as well on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it makes sense, right? You take the Holy Roman Empire here, they're probably going to be the most solid civ, and you kind of want to put your best foot forward. You don't want to save Holy Roman Empire for Boulder Bay and then use a lesser civ on Mediterranean right now when, you know, that's the best you've got. So Rusa obviously quite a strong water civ as well. He could potentially look at going for that. And I guess the other thing is that he could be thinking about is you might actually want to save the Holy Roman Empire matchup for Boulder Bay where China comes out, because that's quite a good matchup there itself. But I guess you probably just want to put your best foot forward, though, don't you?
I genuinely think if you don't pick HR here as Magic, like you're
kind of throwing
gambling it a bit, right? Like it's not that the English can't do something, it's just they do something much better on the alternative map. Even like the Rus like feel better, I'd say, on Boulder Bay than Mediterranean. So just put your best foot forward. You know, you are up against the ropes. It's LucifroN on match point. I expect him to just bring HRE because I think like Chinese as well, if I can choose either map, I still feel like you pick it for Boulder Bay. It's just as good on either.
Yeah.
But the difference is that the HRE will be out of the way and you should have an easier time on the final map.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you on that one. All right, well, we'll wait slowly for the player picks. It's been an absolutely awesome series so far. I tell you what, after that last game, you know, I mentioned to you, Ottomans are looking impressive, aren't they? Like, they are looking really, really solid. I'm looking forward to getting back home and just playing with them on the ladder for 15 hours a day. Yeah.
The crazy part is I think they're about a 42% win rate so far in this event, at least before the start of the day. Yeah, 42.9. They had 6 wins, 8 losses. Well, I think that really got diluted. Yesterday, we saw 2 Ottoman Boulder Bay games. One was from Hut. I believe the other one was from LucifroN?
Yeah, it might have been, actually, yeah.
It was either LucifroN or Vortex, I remember playing it. I think it was LucifroN. And it didn't work out either way. I think there is someone there to be explored, but I still think it's just got so much more value on other maps.
Yes.
You could pick it on Dry Arabia. We saw it on Gorge.
Yeah.
You could even pick it on maps like Basin and it can function well.
Yeah, so typically a civilization like the Ottomans is going to function very well on land maps only, but we do see it's a Holy Roman Empire versus China game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So LucifroN chose to go for like strongest foot forward for the final map in HRE. There is a danger, though, and that danger is there's still English men-at-arms that can be spammed at you. So just looking forward to the future when we get into Boulder Bay, expect LucifroN to wall his own docks in to prevent that play. Otherwise, he could easily just lose the 5th game if we go there.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is going to be interesting. So this is a fun matchup. So typically one of China's, not the best matchup for China. At the moment, they've got a lot of good matchups. And this one definitely seems to feel the worst, or at least it used to. Maybe things have changed since the patch, but it is a water map, though. And China does incredibly on water.
If you can survive long enough, the HRE's potency is diminished heavily. I think HRE players, whenever they play these water maps, they're looking to end the game by about 25 minutes in, because after that, you start to see Holy Inspiration lose some value, right? It's not as potent as it was because you get other civs buffs start to kick in full force. And of course, things like the Chinese build speed can fully be enabled because you have the economy to support all that additional production.
All right, so my question to you, do you think we see a scrappy game today?
I think so.
Yeah, you think it's going to be all over the place? It's not going to be, hey, you make galley, or you make archer ships, I'll make archer ships, and we'll meet in the middle.
I think Magic's really good on the archer ship spam, but LucifroN's really good on the micro. It's something I was worried about for Magic. It's like now that there's 2 water maps, I think LucifroN has been the most impressive micro and water to me so far.
Yeah.
There is a possibility that we don't even see water, though. Chinese, we saw it yesterday. They could just land rush you, like we saw in the Lenok Kapoch series.
All right, we'll have to see how it plays out, but it's going to be a straggler opening coming out. LucifroN on the Chinese to the south, Magic up towards the north on the Holy Roman Empire. An interesting matchup here for game number 4 in this quarterfinal.
Yeah, we get 1 HRE, but not 2. And it's interesting to think that another possibility and why we don't get the mirror matchup here is that most players don't like it.
Yep.
It's been talked about for months. Like, it's kind of annoying because sometimes RNG just decides the game.
You can't blame your opponent's civ. I think that's the biggest thing, right? You lose the game and it's like, well, he's just got a better civ than me. You can't do it in a mirror.
Exactly.
You had all the tools available to you that
that's
day.
It. I have an excuse. Yeah, I don't suck. It's just this civ sucks.
Yes. At least that's the way I think about it. But
that's why I keep playing Malians.
Well, we see an interesting stat popping up on the stream. So HRE winning against the Chinese 6 out of 9 games. So pretty decent win rate right there, 66.66%, right?
0.66 recurring.
Yeah, I forgot those extra 6s.
So it's interesting to me that not that the win percentage is in favor of HRE, but there's been a matchup that many times. I feel like it's unless it's water off of water maps. On land maps, I can kind of see maybe the Chinese having some value. In fact, yes, we actually. So one of the wins going to the Chinese was on a land map. It was Hut versus Viper. And that like I think on land maps, I see Chinese just being like really good. But on water maps, it's very difficult to gamble against the HRE.
See, I feel the other way. See, I feel like if you go for China on a land map against the Holy Roman Empire, like you're crazy to think that you're going to be able to pull that off. Whereas on a water map, I feel like your transitions are a lot easier as China because you can take all that extra food, you can get those extra villages out. So for me, it makes a lot more sense to have it. But we do have a double dock opening from Magic. This is an early double dock. And look at the macro coming out from Magic. He had 4 food, 1 wood, and 0 gold and stone. Wow. 5 resources in the bank. That's how tight this guy's macro is.
He's very optimal with this. And one thing I'm intrigued to see is how much dock spam we get. Right? If someone starts losing the waterfront, to stay on the water, what they might start doing is they'll just drop docks and place some placements. On a map like Mediterranean especially, this allows you to just keep getting deep water fish. It's not as effective on Boulder Bay, it's still helpful, but like if you think about the natural concave nature of your starting point, you're going to create a concentrated fire zone. So it's very difficult for people to dive deep into at least the initial deep waters.
Yeah, perhaps we see people, perhaps we even see the meta start to trend that way because, you know, with archer ships, they don't have the longest range, so it means that they've got to get in there quite deep to try and take out enemy boats. But there's plenty of shorefish here to be had as well, so don't be surprised if players just look to not even make any boats at all.
There's been a clash of ideas on what's the most strong.
Yeah.
I heard from multiple players they thought the Springald ships were broken.
Yep.
I came into the event with the opinion that archer ships are broken. Some players shared that opinion with me. But we've seen players actually struggle to close out an archer ship spam. And I think one of the weaknesses of it is they can't kill the buildings.
Yep.
And those emplacements count them out. So the way you want to kind of play that is I do think the way is still to mass archer ships, but after you have the clear lead on the water, build between 4 and 8 Springalds and slowly just kill off those docks.
I'm just waiting for people to start realizing that battering rams can do it. Just get a battering ram along the shoreline and all of a sudden that's it.
Why can't I just build a battering ram ship?
I like the sound of that. Some sort of turtle ship, perhaps.
Yeah, just like it's a raft that arrives and it just starts ramming.
All right, well,
That's not a battering ram. Don't highlight that to me, Mapu. I see what you're doing. Demo ships are not battering rams. They just die.
Yes, they're sacrificial. But now we've got double dock coming up for you. It's going to be 2 docks for each of these players by 4 minutes. So both of them going pretty gritty. And look at the amount of villages that are down here. He's got to make sure he moves on that Imperial official. One of the mistakes you can make as China is that you build that next lumber camp, but you will forget to supervise. But fortunately, he's paying attention. Oh, he supervised the wrong one, though.
Yo, I just thought about where your battering ram idea is really good. Build a transport ship and send them across.
That could work.
Yeah.
You know, I remember seeing this bug. I think the bug's since been fixed. But what you would do is you'd put 16 battering rams into a transport ship, and while they were being routed towards the transport ship, you would put units inside the battering rams, and they would all fit inside.
Oh, the clown car strat.
It was the clown car, and it actually worked. It was hilarious watching it happen.
And it's hilarious for you until someone brings one demo ship in, on the old patch at least, and it's gone.
Yes, yes. Now they'd need 17 demos, unfortunately. But the age-ups are now coming through. Arkan Chapel here for Magic on the north side of the map. How do you rate this Arkan Chapel? He doesn't pick up his gold, but I mean, his gold's pretty far away, isn't it? Look at that. So, yeah, it's unfortunate when it comes to the placement of it.
I rate it out of 10.
That's an appropriate, yeah.
I give, like, but
he's already eaten through that entire woodline as well. Have a look at that. I reckon he's taken about 40% out of that woodline.
Yeah, he's munching fast.
Yeah, look, have a look at this.
That's always the dicey thing about the HRE, right? Like, Arkan is definitely still the best tier 2 landmark for them.
Yep.
But like the value on these slot locations is diminished by how quickly you move out from them.
Right. All right. Well, have a look on the south side because Magic, or rather LucifroN, is going to be going for the Imperial Academy. And what do you think of this one? So he picks up his wood line with the Imperial Academy. Also picks up a secondary wood line, which on water maps is pretty important. This is a nicer one, realistically. He's got probably a bit of a better spawn here.
We actually had a game yesterday with the Chinese versus the Bastard the Linux series where like I wanted them to do this sort of thing. Like actually it was a very similar spawn. It almost looks the same.
Don't say that. We've had that before. We have to restart.
Right now, admin's behind the scenes. Oh my god. No, don't worry, guys. The south side looks similar. The north side definitely doesn't. But like putting the Imperial Academy there allows you to like come and munch from the woodlines on the inside, which is safe anyway, and get that tax for longer.
All right. Well, the battles begin in the middle of the pond. A single war junk comes out to help its junk little friend. It's double archer ship, so, and he's also pulling the fishing boats to do a little bit of repairing here. That's a lot of idle time, though.
But it is the advantage of not acting first. It's like now you're just trimming away at these, and as you snowball the archer ships, when you now come across, there's going to be injured ships that you could just snipe. And the difference between mass archer ships and these Springalds is when you try to pull the fishing boats to heal, I'm going to target them instead.
Yeah, good point. All right, well, now one of the things that we've seen trending typically on water has been just going for mass, quite literally mass archer ships.
Good micro.
Yeah, it's beautiful stuff, isn't it?
Sorry, I had to highlight it because it's just, he's dicing left to right, because one of the weaknesses of archer ships is that they can whiff, right?
Yep.
They aren't perfect accuracy. They
Correct.
don't have homing archers anymore.
Yeah, well, the trend that we typically see at the moment for water is a very heavy focus on going for archer ships. But we do see quite a lot of Springwood ships out here for LucifroN. He's doing a decent job trying to get in here and dish out some damage, but not having a whole lot of luck actually converting on any kills. Look at that galley as well, down to 25 health.
They are so low. He's trying to optimize for it. The count is slowly increasing, but heavy injuries alongside it. Just great micro from both players so far, but LucifroN is definitely getting the better side of this.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it at the moment. Still the numbers here looking solid for him on the Chinese, and he's pumping out more and more war junks. We do see a ship going to be going down here. Looks like he's really starting to focus down a lot of low health on those archer ships on the backside, and we see another one going down. And LucifroN looking very solid on water once again here.
Yeah, you need a boom ship to reset this. Magic's queuing one now. It needs to be coming out the shortest route dock. It should be this one right here. No, it's further away to the north side. So he's hoping that LucifroN just doesn't notice instantaneously and move away. But this is a dicey fight. The good thing is the HRE has a good enough economy to kind of recover. But right now, this is looking up for Lucy.
All right, the demo comes in. It's a swing and a miss. Beautiful micro here from LucifroN. Look at the way he's just keeping the galleys on the backside here. Just keeping it nice and safe. And he's just tearing Magic apart right now. This could be it.
Like, honestly, you need a magic trick to get back in this one right now. It's looking rough. He's going to lose all water at this rate because Springwalls afterwards can start deleting the docks. That's it. He knows it's over. GG gets called. Magic's journey ends here. LucifroN takes it 3-1.
Incredible game right there from LucifroN. And once again, demonstrating his prowess on the water. We've seen it time and time again.
Yeah.
And once again, this is it, right? Like, you got to watch out for this guy. We're going to see players starting to ban. You're not going to see mountain clearing bans against LucifroN. You're going to see Boulder Bay bans, Mediterranean bans. That is insane.
And this is something I warned. Remember at the start of the series, I said the fact there's 2 water maps doesn't bode well for Magic, especially with the Delhi being banned, so you can't dominate land maps as easily. It's just a great read from LucifroN. Like, we talked about this idea of clashing on waters, and I still think archer ships come out ahead of just Spring or Mass, but the difference is the micro. I said he was going to be a micro king on the water. He shows up again and proves that once more that he is definitely the best performer when it comes to the way he uses his Springwalls on the waters.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the choices that he made about strategy. So he opened up with war junks, which are the Springwood ships, instead of opting for archer ships. And what we saw earlier in the event was Puppy Paw demonstrating how strong archer ships were. But the key difference was he had a critical mass then. He had upwards of 10 archer ships all able to fire at the same time, do huge amounts of damage, and hit everybody. Whereas here we've seen 4, 5, 6. It's just not enough.
And that's always been my point, is that once you get to a high count, the archer ships take over, but you notice that he's basically got baited onto one Springald and he whiffed multiple arrow shots. That's where you start to lose momentum. That's where LucifroN took control of this game, took control of the series, closed it out to 3-1, and I want to hear from the lad himself. We've got Riley standing by on the main stage to talk to Lucy.